Are you kidding me? You're lying.
You want to keep the goodwill if possible, I think, but
the goodwill? Me?
Yeah, I was waiting for that.
I'm the goodwill.
All right, we are live on the tube, so now I'm gonna pop out this.
Back on YouTube.
Yeah, it must have been a weird Zoom thing last time.
Where the players play.
All right. I'm going to make sure our friend and colleague is available. Stop laughing. You dirty bastard.
So every time I see it, I got to giggle. Oh, that's great.
Dude, man, my camera looks dope tonight. My camera be looking good.
Wow.
Oh, I'm going on the Jay-Z Flair show this week.
Nice. You're just all over the place, man.
I'm getting there. There we are.
Got my other computer in here so I can participate in the chat tonight. Normally I can't, but
Oh, I'm going on the Jay-Z Flair show. Hey, shut your mouth. Shut your mouth.
we heard you the first time, Gary. You don't have to brag. Jeez.
You shut up, Gary.
To quote Jericho, shut your
ass. Oh, it's too early. You're supposed to not curse until like 10 minutes in at least.
Yeah.
There's got to be at least 10 people in the chat before you can. I don't make the rules.
Oh, welcome, Work Shoot Wrestling Podcast. Good to see you guys.
What's
on their show as well. It was very nice. Good to see you.
Cool, Gary.
You're being such. Will's. Hey, you guys, if you ever want a good guest, Will would make an excellent guest. He's getting jealous, I can tell. So
I don't get jealous. Okay. I get even.
Okay. Whoa. All on the same team here.
Yeah, but see, you get all the freebies. You get all the free gifts.
Yeah, I don't remember texting Nick Aldis at any point and just talking about
I still ain't got my Manscaped. I'm over here looking like the freaking Amazon.
I tried to get my wife to take us out to send the Manscaped this weekend that she gave up on. She didn't want to do the UPS store. So we're going to send it.
It's tough out there.
NWA Pod gets you 20% off and free shipping.
Worth it.
Here's a trick we need to learn that some of the people here for the early part of the show are going to get to hear, but I'm going to tell you guys, if at any point you feel it like froggy to drop that, hit subscribe or like the video. Obviously we don't hammer people with that, but be good to remind every once in a while. I always forget.
I don't know. I don't want to be
my camera's
too pushy.
Yeah, makes sense. As my camera clears up, I realize I'm getting bags under my eyes.
How old are you?
Too old, bro. I'm 38.
Wow, we're the same age. That is neat.
Y'all are just babies.
Thank you.
Just babies.
I got my wife and I went on a date the other night and got carded when we ordered some sake, and that was the highlight of my week.
Man, I never get carded.
Nice.
My wife gets carded every time. I never get carded.
Shout out Corey Richmond for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for doing that, buddy. We appreciate you. Oh.
Which means, right? That means we have 316 subscribers.
It does. It's Austin Day,
316, baby. Hell
Steve Austin party.
I'm gonna pound these seltzers.
Is that a seltzer to the left? To your right?
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
That
It's
didn't look
not
like a
near
seltzer.
as
That
bad.
like a Highlands. Look, you had a Highland
No,
Brewing kind of thing.
this is
What you got
Highlands.
over there, Gary? What you got tonight?
This is Highlands Wonder Lush seasonal.
Nice.
Very delicious. Highlands Brewery from right up the road in Asheville, North Carolina.
Love Asheville.
Yeah.
Love it. That's one of my wife's favorite towns, man.
We enjoy going there. We went to there is a like Japanese themed spa massage resort place called Shoji. And they're not paying me to say that, but check it out. It's really cool. If you want a nice little couples weekend, get some massages and
You guys got like
salt bath.
Oh, nice. Ooh, salt bath.
Yeah, man. It's hard to take a regular bath after that.
That explains a lot because it's a hard day when I can smell you through freaking Zoom. I've been wondering if you were taking care of yourself, and now I know that you're not. So
Yeah, not since
that is-
Shoji.
Not since Shoji. Oh man, what was I doing? Okay, thank you guys for being here. Thanks for sticking around. We're prepping this thing up.
We got to tweet it out. That's why nobody's here.
Yeah.
tweeting
I'm
it
doing
right
Right now. I also just tweeted, so you can RT that if you'd like. Anybody in the chat that would like to RT it. Did a little jab at Lagana in the tweet.
I'm gonna tag the mass fan and did such a good job of not.
Yeah. Do. Oh, accidentally invited Gary or Will via Twitter the night Gary was on the podcast. Now we definitely need to have him on.
Yeah, I almost just showed up and they would have been like, "Who are you?" People get us.
What up,
confused a
Quad
lot.
Bs? Quad Bs? What are you talking about, Quad Bs? There's only triple Bs here. Are you talking about the bearded trio? What are you talking about, RJ? By the way, thanks, RJ, for being here. Welcome.
RJ.
RJ in the house. It's gravy cake day, baby.
Yeah,
It's
it
9
is.
p.m. so we can get real wild. I got guns out already. It's already owned.
Yeah, man. I just ate some cereal. Woo, I'm feeling good.
Oh, cereal late at night.
I do what I want.
We got a special guest coming in about 5 minutes.
I guess I could like too. I could hit the like.
Yeah, good reminder. Hey, if you're in the chat right now, Gary told me to say this. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button.
Thanks for
That's
doing
one.
that.
That's one for me. Whoever's keeping tally.
Oh, Lagata's in the chat. He says the title of the episode's incorrect. No mention of the gun show. Nah, that's clever. Lagata. I assume you saw the tweet, Dave, about we're here to talk about NWA, Carnyland, WWE, tried and true, whatever you guys want to talk about, and Lagata's writing. We'd love to talk about that. Lagata also, if you guys weren't there previously, Lagata hosted the Q&A with Royce and May, and that was a lot of fun. He asked at least one of my questions. mixed it up a little bit. Royce had not shared that question or that story with me. I actually heard that story secondhand from someone else. I wanted Royce to address it. And so that was nice. I'm glad that you at least mentioned it. Ryan Romano, what's up? Brian Lang, what's up? Corey, Dave, everybody, all of you guys are here. This is beautiful, and we're gonna have a guest on in just a minute. And we were just trying to get everything prepped up and get the stuff out there. RJ's criticizing my arms. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Hey, water is the basis for life, bro.
I don't think that's how you're supposed to talk about your arms, though.
I'm just trying, man. Right. Hey, if you want to be negative, I'm just trying to help you out. Oh, shoot.
Where'd Rob go?
I'm coming back.
What happened? Are you in a video game?
Rob just went full Stu Bennett on us right there. What's going on? Rob, you just turned into a weakling Stu Bennett.
He's in the future.
One of us is stepping down from this podcast. One of us is done.
Stu Bennett, add toilet paper to the grocery list.
Oh my God,
man! I'm experimenting with a webcam here, and
well, this is the perfect time to do that.
You guys,
I'm gonna tell you what. From your outfit, you look like you're experimenting with a lot of things.
This is like roast Stinson night, man. What the heck? I'm just
it is Tuesday. Yeah, you're right.
Don't
you
hey,
really do look like you just like came back, like you got like it's like a goth biker look. I'm trying to figure out what it is. Like it's like it's the normal Rob, but today the chest is out, and so that's what's.
If that offends you, or if that makes you uncomfortable, if you're threatened,
no,
as if it
is it weird if I'm more comfortable now that you're. The further down your zipper goes, the more comfortable I am.
Well, heck, man, let's just. There we go. We'll find a happy.
I'm starting off with a energy drink tonight, so I'm ready to scissor kick this episode. I'm excited. I just ripped my sleeves off, and we're here. I mean, WWE Front Row just showed up in the chat, yeah. So now it feels like it's legit. You got a hashtag adorable Rob from Ryan Romano in the chat. So adorable Rob, I like that. I think we should roll with that.
Goth Croc Hunter. I like that.
We're just kicking it for just like another minute or two till our guest gets here, and then we can do a recap of Carnyland. And yeah.
Hey, make sure you check out Hey It's Will Daily. Really, really good episode today. It's only about 3.5 minutes. It's very easy to, of course, you guys all watch it, so you know what I'm talking about. But also, for the first time, I dropped a table talk video on the podcast. I haven't normally done that. It's not specifically wrestling related, although it inevitably makes its way in. But that's more just father-daughter kind of stuff. It's humorous and funny. You know, if you enjoyed that, go watch it. It doesn't hurt our feelings at all, and it helps our view count and that kind of thing. But I'll be dropping those on the This Is The NWA Podcast from here on out. So all of the Stinson Vision content now will be on that channel. So check that out if you get a chance, and like, subscribe, share, that kind of thing.
Just confirming a few things. So WWE Front Row, why you got to spoil things? Yeah, they're spoiling things in the chat. That ain't what this is about. We don't give scoops in the chat.
We got a leak amongst the trio. We got a leaker amongst us.
You said you weren't going to say anything.
I know. Look at that. Al John's in the chat. What's up, buddy? Ain't no Nick Aldis scandal. Well, we're going to talk about that. I mean, clearly something happened. Why was a man stepped down if there wasn't a scandal?
Here you go.
Natalia Martin.
Oh, there we go. For some reason,
I'm just writing a letter to the president of the NWA.
What you eating, Rob?
Again, this is not a sponsor. They don't endorse us, but I endorse them. This is Gardetto's original recipe snack mix. Man, it's so delicious. And then you mix it down with a nice dark. This is the NWA After Dark beverage. And you're set, brother.
Oh, we had our own beverage. That's nice. Hey, thanks, RJ. RJ tweeted out the link. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you guys for sharing. We're always like dragging right here. It's mainly my fault usually. I'm just
100% your fault.
Yeah, always. Most problems can be traced back to Gary, I've found. Rob, you've been on fire the last couple of episodes we've done. I just want to point that out. Like we went into those backlash reactions on the Facebook Live.
And then we had to wake you up.
You couldn't just like went full Camille, like pre-COVID Camille, when she wasn't talking. Is that how we're going to look at Camille now? Pre-COVID and post-COVID Camille?
I hope not.
Pre-COVID and post-COVID.
All right.
No.
I love it when you just mumble.
It's like I remember when Camille was not speaking and Piper had come up to me and she was like, "Dad, I know something." I'm like, "What?" She goes, "I know that Camille can really talk." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "You don't know this, but she has a cooking video out and she talks." I'm like, "Shh, you don't say nothing. You don't say a thing."
I don't want to feel like I'm always roasting you, Rob, but I also love that you're like leaned over, so it makes you like more skeezy. Like you're doing the whiskey Gary pose some of the time when you're talking.
Yeah.
That's not me criticizing you, by the way.
We do
I
have
love
to
it.
improve
Just
our
like any.
posture.
Yeah, I know. So,
Well, here's the truth.
We're
the truth
upstanding
of the matter
members
is,
of society.
the truth
Goth
of the matter
vampire, weird
is
redneck, and
I
whatever
can't
else.
read. I can't read without these unless I lean in because I'm not young. I'm not young and in my late 20s like you guys. So I've got to put these on and in order not to mess this up, I just rather just lean in so I can read my notes.
It really takes away from the that smooth chest you got going on there. Like when you have the glasses on, I picture like you with gray chest hair just like poking out of your hoodie. But
Well,
then,
since we're roasting everybody, I love how your background cuts in and out.
well, thanks. There it goes. How's that? Is that better? I think it's because I hit the green screen or something. Is this the stuff everybody signed up for today? Is this what you're here for? The real talk?
Yeah.
Hashtag real talk?
This
is great.
Will, you are brilliant. You are a tech genius. Can't you do something like reroute Gary's mainframe or motherboard or rewrite the DOS coding or something to fix that junk?
Yeah, let me just beep, boop, 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 boop.
There it is.
Oh my God. I don't know. I just know you referenced DOS like we're in like you're a caveman or something.
I could have said Pascal. You probably don't even remember that.
No, I don't remember that.
I don't speak that language.
The Fortune's going crazy in the chat right now. He's losing his mind because he's like, well, what's going on in Carnyland? And we're just talking about DOS.
Well, listen, I'll kick us off and I'll do a little reverse Stu Bennett and I'll take us back in time 1 week. At the end of last week's live chat, when we were going around the group and we were giving our predictions for who we thought was going to drop out of the race. And if I remember correctly, I was laughed at for a lot of things that night, but mainly for the fact that I said, you know what, I'm going to go on a limb and I'm going to say Nick Aldis is dropping out. Something's going to happen and he's going to drop out. and it was just kind of brushed under the rug. It was made into a joke. But who's laughing now?
Well,
that's
a low blow right there. That's a low blow.
Me being right is a low blow.
We agreed before we started.
How drunk are you to start this thing off? Just curious, Rob.
Oh, I don't get drunk, man. I don't get drunk. I get a little, I like to drink, but I don't. I like to maintain my faculties.
Okay, all right, fair enough. I was just curious. Danny Deals is a cancer, says Fortson. Folks, we're getting ready to go. I had our. What's funny is. Oh, here we go. It's. He was waiting in the waiting room, and I just noticed it.
Thank you for your patience.
He's connecting, apparently. But it's no surprise anymore. He's got big, bold letters right across the screen. The masked fan is joining us eventually.
There he is.
There he is.
All right.
Oh, it's the masked fan, everybody.
Nice.
What's going on, guys?
What's up, brother?
Welcome, sir.
I'm over here reading the newspaper, just waiting to be dialed in,
Yeah. Sorry, I was like, where is this guy? I'm like, we're trying to stall, and you were in the waiting room, and I didn't realize it.
What is it, the Manscaped Weekly or whatever?
Oh, is that what you had?
It finally came in the mail 3 weeks later, and I used the NWA. This is the NWA pod code, by the way.
NWA pod, 20% off and free shipping at
20%.
manscaped.com.
It's free, but you wait 3 weeks for it. Anyway, what's going on, guys? How's
everybody? But
it's
worth it, right? Like, if we could see under that mask, it would be just like a
it keeps my mask nice and smooth, actually. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And wherever you might have a mask, well, you won't need to cover yourself up with a mask if you take care of it yourself where it counts, and that's where Manscaped comes in, right?
You'll probably still cover it up.
Yeah.
Legal.
So anyway,
in public, cover it up. It's just a good idea. RJ, I'm getting sick of you talking about my pasty arms. You're gonna have to back off.
Hey,
all right.
Hey, Mask Man, I don't know if you saw that on your mask unpackaging episode, you did was it Ray Fury?
Yep.
Yeah, I tweeted out a shout out to you today, and he liked it.
No,
I'm showing you some love, man.
I thank you. I've been on this campaign of trying to get him into like virtual basement, and they keep going for like big name guys that are like on TV, and I'm like, you just lost more than half your roster because they all got signed to Impact Wrestling, and Ray Fury's as popular as I come, among the indie scene. He's actually one of the final few indie darlings that are actually even out there because they all keep getting signed to left and right. So,
right.
They keep liking my stuff and whatnot, but
maybe eventually they'll learn to listen to the masked fan.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
easy. Fortune's losing his mind in the chat.
He's ready for us to talk about Carnyland, and I don't blame him because that's what this whole show's about. So what's up, you beautiful people, and welcome to I'm Gary Horn, and this is the NWA. It's the podcast celebrating the past, present, future, history, legacy, and tradition of the greatest pro wrestling entity of all time, the National Wrestling Alliance. And this is the NWA After Dark, where nothing is off limits. And as always, I am joined by one of my hosts, Will Martin. Not my host, one of the other hosts. Yeah. And the doctor, adorable Rob Stinson.
Dr. McLovin.
Dr. McLovin. And our special guest tonight is the famous or infamous.
The mysterious.
and mysterious. He was in the crowd at the NWA Power tapings. He may have even been there on times you didn't see him because you only know him with the mask on, but has he been there with the mask off? Nobody knows. It's crazy. It's the Masked Fan. Yeah. Hey, welcome, Masked Fan. And Masked Fan, my God, you were on the episode tonight. You were on Carnyland. So congrats on that too. That was your television debut.
Tell you, Monrovia is not the easiest. You know, I use Verizon, and you know how much they upcharge me calling to Monrovia. So I'm gonna have to talk to my dad and see if he can comp me that.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Long distance. I have bills to pay.
I didn't even know Monrovia had cell towers, so it was.
They have like one, and nobody knows except him where it is, and I somehow got through. I don't know. Gotcha. I've been trying for weeks.
Well, folks, we got people antsy in the chat, so we're going to get talking about Carnyland. We're going to answer a lot of questions. What's going on with the scandal that just rocked Carnyland today? Also, the ultimate question of all time, VHS or beta. We're going to talk about all of it. But Masked Fan, just if people don't know you, you're going to show up on an episode, obviously, so we'll get more in depth of it. I've got you scheduled and already recorded in an episode.
Got me in the archives.
Rewind. Yeah, you're in the archives. But do you want to tell anybody about you, where they can find you, what you do, what your thing is?
I'm gonna keep to the mysterious part of things. Just check out Gary's episode when that drops in a few weeks, and you'll learn all you need to know about who the Masked Fan is and how I came to be. Cheap plug for the show.
Yeah, and the Masked Fan does have his own YouTube show, and it's fantastic. You guys should definitely check that out. All right, so let's jump into Carnyland, because that's what everybody's here for. They're sick of us shooting the breeze here. If you got questions and comments, drop them in the chat. That's what we're here for. So we want to interact with you guys, and I promise we'll be better about it here. We took forever setting up, but now we're good to go. This episode of Carnyland started with Eli Drake. And, of course, Mr. Drake was giving his pitch for Carnyland. And he's the kind of guy, I mean, it sounded like his basic baseline promise is that he will stand up and speak his mind. He'll stand up for you. He'll speak for you. He will be a champion for change. Where do you guys land? How are you feeling about Eli Drake's chances so far in the Carnyland mayoral race?
Well,
we'll start with Rob.
Yeah.
Start with Rob. Rob's the biggest Eli Drake fan here.
Get it out of the way.
Sorry. Eli Drake, man, he's one that, again, I have mixed emotions about him. Well, they're not really mixed. They're mostly on one side of things, and then there's a smattering, a smidgen of appreciation for him. He speaks his own mind. That's his thing. What I thought was interesting is that he never once mentioned the word mayor in this ad. Go back and watch it. I had to go back. He never says running for mayor. He just says, So for a minute, when I was watching this, I was like, is this a campaign ad, or is this another one of like what Eddie Kingston did last week? Is this something, just a general PSA about speaking up for people when you see injustice and that kind of thing? But he does. I imagine it's a mayoral campaign ad, and he says in it that he will. When you need change in the world, you need someone who will speak your mind. And Eli has always spoke his mind. He's lost many jobs for it. And therefore, I cannot endorse Eli Drake for mayor, because I know that this will also be another job that he will lose on the basis of the fact that he always speaks his mind. And one has the right to speak your mind, but that doesn't mean you should always do it.
Rob has never one to hide his feelings, so we appreciate him for that. Thank you, Doctor.
Much like
Will, Will, where are you landed on Eli right now?
I thought it was good. That's interesting that he didn't mention mayor. I'm gonna have to go back and watch it now with that in my mind, because I just already have the assumption. But he did say vote, right? I mean, he talked about a vote for Eli Drake. So I don't
remember if he even said that. I for the whole time I was thinking this is another PSA, and I thought it was pretty good. I really did. I thought it was along the lines of, hey, we need to speak out, and if you see something, you need to be one to speak on behalf of others. That's where I thought he was going. And then towards the end, when he started talking about change in Carnyland, then it was like, oh, this is a campaign ad. So it was kind of good in that sense. Like it had me kind of intrigued about what he was trying to get at.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably not going to vote for him, but it was okay for me.
Sorry, my mic's getting screwy. Mass Fan, how do you feel? Like, as far as the mayoral race and Eli Drake.
First off, Mass for mayor, but Eli Drake, he didn't really have per se like my vote. It's not. Nah, I don't think it's his things are bad. I didn't realize he didn't say mayor or ask anybody really to even vote for him either. It was good of you, Stetson, to pick that up. So. I don't know. He didn't initially have my vote, but I like what he's doing. But he still doesn't have my vote now. So,
All right. Well, you just heard Rob's support. He's nodding in agreement. Well, that's fine. I will move on from Eli Drake now. The next thing up is.
Can I tell Mass Fan? I don't know. I think he's been watching it, just so he knows. I'm with you. I'm not anti-Eli Drake. I think that the last 2 episodes have been overwhelmingly positive. They've been really good. They've been tactical. But I'm with you. Like, it doesn't have that factor that pushes them to the upper echelon. Candidates.
He's okay where he's at right now.
Well, all right. Hopefully he's not watching today. So the next thing, it leads us into our big topic of discussion, I'm sure, tonight. Like, Fortson's just itching in the chat to bring this up, but we get to Nick Aldis, and we got an Aldis promo, just a standard mayoral candidate promo, but it gets interrupted by Danny Deals, and Danny Deals giving him a lot of coaching, so it's a little fishy, I guess is the best word I can think of to describe this whole thing, like what's going on here. And Danny Deals is like telling him not to promise too much or not to, I don't know, he seems skeezier than Aldis, if that makes any sense. Am I reading the situation right? Does it seem that way?
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there.
Rob, I see you getting giddy in the other corner.
Because you used the word skeezy twice tonight, once in reference to me and once in reference to Danny Deals. So I take umbrage at that. Now I see
Dr. Deals over here.
Yeah.
Dr.
Doc
Deals.
McLovin. Doc McLovin and Danny Deals are not in the same category. But he does say, I love that Danny Deals said, don't ever speak in ultimates. And he says, you ought to say something like, hold on. He says, you ought to say something like, hey, at least it's not raining outside. Like that most vague thing, man. That's so entertaining, dude. I love those little. Danny Deals is so like intolerable, but at the same time, he's really fun to watch.
Well, that brings us to an excellent place. The next thing up, I believe, is the actual question mark promo, and question mark gets a call on the love line or the question line or whatever, and the question comes from somebody we're familiar with right now. Talks of the Times.
Talks of the Times.
Yep, and so Mass Fan, you called into the question mark, and you asked him how you keep a long-lasting marriage, a happy and long-lasting marriage, I believe. And what's
that term? I was asking for a friend.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the advice he gave you in one word is daffodil. Does that did that help you along? Did you take that to heart? And has
maybe he was trying to say give flowers, and I don't know. I was a little confused myself.
Huh. Doc, do you have any analysis of that, given your education background?
And I don't know if the Mass Fan was able to see the sort of the translations. There was at one point where the translators from Google Translate Monrovia translate listen at one point. So I imagine he's saying that you ought to listen. But the daffodil thing, it's like that's a riddle right there, man. Because I think I know that the question mark passes through Chattanooga on his way down to the studio, and I know that Chattanooga is famous for its daffodils. And the nice daffodil grove that's outside of Il Primo restaurant, the Italian restaurant on Hicks and Pike. So I think what he was saying is you need to take your wife frequently on dates to nice Italian restaurants or Mongrovian restaurants, you know.
See, you're really good at like just picking things apart like that. I didn't even catch any of that. And I'm not familiar with Tennessee either, or the restaurant you were talking about, but I wasn't familiar with those things either.
Right. Yeah,
well, that's what we have.
Yeah, just that investigative analysis, man. You know, I'm the I'll be the next star of National Treasure, man, because I'm just picking up those riddles and clues. I know we blew Fortune's mind in the chat. He's like, what the heck is he talking about?
I wish I could see the chat. Let's see.
Well, you can just if you're doing this on your phone, it's probably more difficult, but
yeah, I am.
You could, well, just trust us. They're talking about how good you look tonight. That's from the Fortune, so take that how you will.
I've got a question for the Mass Fam. And I don't want to go into too much backstage stuff, but like how were you how were you invited? Did you just call, or did you send your question in, or how did the process happen of you getting on that particular segment?
Let's say it was not really about the journey, but about the destination. The journey wasn't fun. It was not fun. This had been something, I guess I could talk about it now since it's already out, but this had been something I'd filmed several different things for the question mark for the segment weeks and weeks and weeks ago. And I was like, man, I want to tell everybody, but he told me not to tell anybody. And so this was just something that I'd filmed, and then he said something came up that it wasn't going to show. It was supposed to show a few weeks ago, and then I don't know, some things happened, some things got bounced around, and then when they sent out that first one last week, send in your questions to the question mark, and I was like, this is where it's got to happen. We've been trying for weeks at least. This is the opportunity. So I reached out to him, and we got some things going, and was able to get at least that part for the episode tonight. I was going to ask him.
Are you speaking through his translator, Juan Waco, when you talk to him?
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Got you. Understood.
Understood. Yeah, I tried. I had another question. I was like, so let's get the world, let's see what you say, so that the world knows. Are you really my father? Well, that wasn't a fun conversation, so we changed it.
I imagine that money gets involved when all of that comes out. So for the sake of the NWA and his bank account, that will probably never get discussed.
This bank account is just question marks.
Yeah. Which, yeah.
Nobody knows how much he actually has.
So moving on from there, we got a weird ad from about Zicky Dice. I thought it was going to be a Zicky Dice candidacy ad, but it was actually or campaign ad, I should say. But it was kind of an anti Zicky Dice ad, saying we can't have a paper champion, we can't have a living peacock. What else did they say? It was like a belligerent person afraid to step up to a challenge. Used car salesman. That was the other one I couldn't think of. But and then it just said it was paid for by the campaign for Zicky Dice is stupid, and so is everybody who likes him. What'd you guys think of that?
It was outlandish.
Outlandish. Well, Will, you've been quiet over there. What are you doing?
I was just so taken aback by the good doctor's interpretation of the word daffodil that it's just, my mind is still mush from that. Yeah, this was surprising. I mean, we don't know who orchestrated this smear campaign against the must-see TV champ. I've got some theories just watching the video, but you just never know, What do you guys think? Who did it?
Well, it's interesting. One of the first people I saw retweet it was Miss Marty Bell. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but she retweeted.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, with a
weird
emoji. And
yeah. The funny thing is, like, I feel like that promo was something like, and again, I'm not trying to get political, but I don't mean to. I don't want him to take this as an insult or a compliment anyway. But I feel like Zicky's response to that ad would have been very Trumpian. Like, he wouldn't have denied any of it. He would have looked at all of the things that were said in there as positives. You know, it's kind of like when Trump was accused of, like, hey, as you being wealthy, are you being a wealthy man? Is that going to hurt your chances of winning in 2016? Look at what happened to Mitt Romney. And Trump responds with, Mitt Romney's not wealthy. You know what I mean? Doesn't deny anything. He just flips it on its head. So I feel like everything that was said in that ad is something like Zicky would like, yeah, that's all true. What's bad about it? That's just outlandishness.
You just own up to it.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like that's another storyline that's going to play out over time, probably. So, I don't know. Fortune's in the chat betting it had something to do with Danny Deals as well. So, I mean, I wouldn't put it past Danny Deals to have an involvement. Danny Deals feels like he's got his hands in everything.
I bet it was somebody from Strictly Business, throwing something together to run that smear campaign. I don't know.
Well, that's an interesting thought, because that was what I saw, and I was actually just now rewatching it on my phone in slow motion, because there's one shot. This is what we do here, okay? If Rob can interpret Daffodil, I can watch in slow motion and come up with theories, conspiracy.
This is why I like having you guys around.
But there is a one scene, and I can't, scrolling, it's hard to find. Here it is. I don't know if you can see who's in the background there.
Right.
Thomas Latmer.
Yes. And if you slow that scene down, Zicky's walking by, he's running his mouth, and then it cuts in really close for a second on Tom, and he's cutting a promo, and then it cuts to something else.
It wasn't Thomas that night that scene actually happened. Didn't he express some kind of annoyance when Zicky walked by him?
Remember, Zicky had just won. Now, you were there, Mass Fan. Gary was there. Will, you weren't there at that, but and I don't want to spoil anything because I'm not sure how far you are along in Power, but you know that Zicky Dice wins the TV championship, obviously. Yeah, Zicky had just defeated Ricky Starks. He had just defeated Ricky Starks for the title. He's going out there to the podium, and Tom Latimer comes out and calls Joe Galley out about something to do with Camille. And at that point, he bullies Zicky Dice out of the way, and Zicky kind of walks away. So you might be onto something, Will.
I think it's planting those seeds, man. Yeah. When we get back to wrestling, somebody might be coming after that TV title. That's
a really good point, and somebody has to challenge for it. I mean, if you were a part of, I think it's okay to talk.
You know what?
Go ahead. I'm
sorry. No, I completely interrupted you. I apologize.
No, I'm sorry. You're the guest. If you have something, go ahead and say it.
I was gonna say, so the TV champion. What is it? If you get like 7 defenses in a row, something like that.
Lucky 7.
Yeah. So what if Latmer wins? This leads to something like that, and it wins. Now he's got the TV title, and as they loom closer and closer to him, getting closer to that 7 as Nick Aldis is world champion, maybe some tension comes along there in Strictly Business.
Interesting thought.
That is an interesting thought.
There you go, NWA. I just wrote out like 6 months of storyline for you. I'll be looking for
hope you're still in the chat, Legata. Mass Fans right in the show. I was going to say that sounds like an interesting idea, but I mean, you've got folks in the chat saying, I mean, Fortune thinks Danny Deals is a cancer, and but then I saw right before that, people thought Danny Deals was involved, but Front Row is saying Danny Deals is just misunderstood. He's trying to make things happen. So a lot of discussion right now around this based around Danny Deals. So I think that's interesting. The chat was going into this. We're getting Wrestling with the MMA in the chat talking about that your theory is not way off. Latimer has previously turned on Aldis back in Impact. So who knows? They've got history.
Cody Rhodes, leave me alone. That would.
Oh, sorry. Don't let us interrupt your convo with Cody Rhodes.
No, I signed up for his text thing. He sends messages and pictures of his dog, but he never replies, so I just ignore him now.
I could do that.
Let's move on and let's talk about my favorite part of the show personally. This is slowly building for me, but Esther Addington, she's got a lot of sits, and she's comforting like Mama's apple pie. Don't you want to take a slice? I do.
No.
Fancy. You want to take her like a fancy feather in your hat.
Just stop.
And listen, don't hate. I just want the bester. And I don't know why everybody's not on board with that already. So you guys aren't feeling Esther Addington yet?
The level of cringe.
Ooh.
No, I'm just not. I don't know. I think it's kind of funny, but it's exploring a side of the personality of Allison Kay and what she's able to do, like outside of her comfort zone, being Allison Kay, just trying something with a different character. Obviously, I don't think it'd be anything you'd see on Power, but
what?
Just
pardon me. What the hell are you talking about?
Esther Addington.
Yeah, we're talking about Esther Addington. You're on a different segment, brother. We're Esther Addington's what we're talking about.
Gary lives in kayfabe world, so you can't talk about reality.
I'm gonna tell you this about Gary though. Gary has got fantastic taste, because there for a long time it's like me and Gary were the only people in the world that said, "Hey man, there's something special about the spiritual advisor. This chick is sizzling," and I'm with you, man. Whatever Esther, can't put my finger on it, but I'm seeing it and I'm liking it. I like Esther. I like her, man. I'm with you, Gary.
Thank you so much. Will, where do you land on Esther? You look confused over there, and it's starting to worry me a little bit. What are you thinking about?
This is just always what I look like. Just bringing in more useless conspiracy theories. When you turn on the auto-generated closed captioning, instead of saying if you want the bester, go with Esther, it says if you want the bastard, go with Esther. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's I know they're auto-generated by YouTube, and so nobody really controls them, but I don't know.
Well,
think about.
Orson just dropped a hashtag thirsty Stinson in the chat, and I hope that starts trending. That would be nice.
Well, he's got to be thirsty up those Gardettos he's been slamming.
I know, man. I got to tell you though, Will, to take the spotlight out, Orson always trying to steal the spotlight, man. So it's not all about you, dude. All right. Anyway, here's the thing about your conspiracy theory. You don't think David Lagana knows about those transcriptions?
If he doesn't, he does know.
Transcription gets away by Lagana's attention, man.
Can you even? I'm curious because I don't know that we can. Let's see here. Subtitles, English. I was looking to see if ours shows subtitles when I throw them on right now, and they're definitely not on YouTube. So I was thinking I looked into this, and you're supposed to like pay to get things transcribed so that you can load that into your video. So that I'm not above believing that is a subtle clue from David Lagana. Maybe.
So that's I always thought that was just available to do the closed captioning for any video. I didn't realize that was something extra you had to pay for to put on your channel.
Well, I know that when I load videos up for this thing, it always asks if you have like the closed captioning or whatever for it. So just kind of interesting, just a thought. But speaking of Esther Addington and bastards, the next thing up is a totally different kind of person. Allison Kay's out, and she's getting talked to by Joe Galley, and Allison Kay, Galley's asking her if she's the one that's going to drop out of the race, and she says no, this is where she belongs, and she'll fight for you. Like literally, she'll fight for you. Like if you have a boss that's driving you nuts, she will come powerbomb him through the desk. Somebody driving you crazy, and she'll throw him out of a window. And then they ask her about, they talked to her about Esther, And she says that Esther is a piece of dookie. We'll just keep it PG there. And so I don't know. Allison Kay, not a fan, says that Esther just like lures you in and talks in circles, but never actually gets anything done. So there's a rivalry between Esther Addington and Allison Kay, it seems like.
Do they know each other?
They hinted at it in Esther's first promo, but it sounds like they definitely have a history somehow.
There's definitely a background. Yeah.
Well, yeah, they don't seem like they'd hang out because like Esther appears to be so much older. I would say more refined.
Well, here's my question: Are we gonna have? I know the election's next week, but are we gonna have debates? Because I would love to personally see Allison Kay and Esther Addington in the same room together, talking about the issues, and I would just like to see where they land together at the same time in the same room. And I think that would just help me make a decision.
That'd be a possibility.
It would be it would drive you nuts. It was though like I don't know. It's just like something you don't want to see because you like the people so much. It'd be like asking for a mixed tag between like Esther and Josephus versus question mark and Allison Kay.
Oh,
like
I was gonna bring that up too. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be a great match, I'm sure. But it's like, does the world really want to have that match?
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to see.
I wonder if, I'd like to see it.
I would too. Yeah, I wonder if next week if we'll see something like a town hall style debate, because the election, the voting opens up at 7:00. So I wonder if we'll see a town hall style debate where they're all on the stage together talking about the issues like VHS versus Beta and many of the other things that were brought up tonight. But I have to point out Allison Kay's. I don't know if it's her official campaign slogan, but I like to point out that she mentioned she will crack skulls for justice. And, that looks like that would be a great. That wouldn't even be a great T-shirt. That'd be a great tattoo right there. Crack skulls
for justice. Yeah.
I could see the doctor with that right here, Rob.
Right here. No, I put it on.
It's like a big.
I put it on my lower back.
Tramp stamp style.
Tramp stamp? Is that what they call it? No, just on my lower back. Lower back, like right above my waistline, or right side. That'd be cool.
Might as well be a bullseye.
We'll call that a Stinson stamp.
Apparently,
all in favor.
A skeezy stamp or something.
WWE Front Row wants us to take a moment and appreciate how darn good Joe Galley is, and I agree. Joe Galley is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
He's
I enjoy.
He's won an Emmy.
Has he?
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen that. Like he never brings it up. He's pretty humble, but he's definitely won an Emmy.
I love Joe Galley. Like from when I first started watching NWA, back months and months ago. He's definitely the voice. It's like a refreshing change of pace for me, I guess. Like when you're coming from that WWE Michael Cole, like I love Joe Galley.
I like him.
That's fan. It sounds like you are wrestling with a chair over there. I just want you to know that. It just sounds
Don't
like
put the focus on me. We're talking about Joe Galley and putting him over.
Okay.
He's deflecting. You're deflecting, Gary.
God is in the chat and said I need to stop sliding into his DMs trying to get Esther's MySpace.
Mm-hmm.
And
whose DMs?
Lagana. I will not though, because I can't help it. Hot is hot. You know what I'm saying? So it's just the way it is.
Right.
So let's before things get really uncomfortable, the next thing we had up was Danny Deals having a seat with Tom and Camille. And so this goes back a little bit to what you guys were talking about before with is Tom behind the Zicky Dice promo? Like what's going on there? Is Danny Deals in collusion? Well, obviously he's working with Strictly Business. And but I don't know. They don't seem very comfortable with him. I don't know if you guys got that impression that Tom and Camille seem to have no idea what Danny Deals is talking about at any point during this entire segment. Although I will say I enjoyed this entire segment with Danny just talking about Camille just yapping and it needs to, don't tell Nick, he doesn't need to know anything. And Tom's like, what are you talking about? Perfect. And but you talk too much. It was pretty great stuff from Danny Deals. He's growing on me from the Mama Storm days. You guys got any thoughts so far about this segment?
No, it was good. I like that touch about insinuating that Camille, who never talks too much. That was funny.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. And he's wearing that EC3 or Champion 2015 shirt. So I don't know if that's alluding to the NWA signing EC3.
Excellent point, Masked Fan.
Didn't something get brought up a couple of weeks back about something NWA signing somebody, but they never announced who it was, or is just something like that? So I didn't know.
I am not familiar with that particular thing. Now I do know there was a statement on Inside the NWA where our president William Patrick Corgan did say out of a lot of those talents that were released from WWE, so he did drop EC3 as a name he would be interested in working with, that he likes him.
Because they probably worked together in Impact, right? When he had his time there, I guess.
Yeah, I believe that's accurate. Maybe even Lagana as well. I don't know that for a fact, but I imagine that's the case. And EC3, man, he's been pretty impressive since he's been away from WWE. He's been putting the work and grinding it out on social media and just doing his own stuff, his own videos, and got his own brand going. I just the other day in the mail got a package with 2 EC3 shirts. I got the 3 lines and I got the Control Your Narrative shirt because I dug them.
Non-essential 3.
I made that note.
I love what he's doing.
Yeah, I hate to read too deeply into things, but I'd made that note also about that shirt, which reminded me that I'd made another note about last week. I don't know if we brought it up on our Sunday live stream, but Gary, Will, in one of his Hey It's Will dailies, referred us to the Ring of Honor week by week show, in which Nick Aldis puts the Ring of Honor on notice. But I pointed out that, Aldis is wearing a Crockett Cup pin in that promo.
Oh, yeah,
again, I don't want to read too much, but I did notice that EC3 shirt. I thought that's a very, very good pickup there, Mass Fan.
Yeah, I could see him be like the NWA national champion or something at some point.
Man, you guys are attributing some excellent writing here to Lagana, and I don't know if he deserves all that, but I just you're giving him lost levels of secrets and Easter eggs and stuff like that. That's kind of interesting. His old Damon Lindelof over here, JJ Abrams, even. Wrestling with the MMA, thanks for hanging out with us. He's got to call in a night because of work. We hope you'll catch the rest later.
Hey, before you go, Wrestling with the MMA, I want you to hear this. We do at the end of the show, we do a put over and put under segment. And I'm going to go ahead and put my guys over right now, if you don't mind. I want to put over the Fortson and Wrestling with the MMA. Gosh, it kills me to do this. But we released the day 600 video. And pretty much we got everybody that was willing to participate or comfortable to contribute, and most everybody in the family. That I think we missed a couple. I had trouble finding Romano's contact information. There was a couple others that I missed. We'll get them later, but we all were on there for about 5 seconds. I think we appeared twice or 3 times a piece. But I felt like the Fortson and Wrestling with the MMA were so good at what they did that I had to put their whole diatribes in there. So hilarious. And they got a shout out by Nick Aldis later too. A shout out that, despite their opposing views, he appreciated them being in there. So I want to put over before, and I'll touch on this again at the end, but I want to put over the Strictly Resistance faction. We disagree, but we're still NWA fam. And I appreciate your contributions. It really stole the show, man. Good job, guys.
And a big man of big of Nick Aldis to put those guys over, even though they are in the Strictly Resistance camp.
Well, that's just being Nick Aldis being the bigger man, all right?
Yeah,
indeed.
Fortson's not going to like any of that, and he's got plenty of stuff to say. He's
Ammo.
actually in there right now. Definition of a backhanded compliment from the champ. So he's a puppeteer, man. He's gonna win you over, Fortson. But we're gonna hear more about all this in just a moment. The next thing up though is your boy Josephus is dropping another beat. Put my name on the ballot. Put my name on the ballot. It's great. He's just like second week in a row with some catchy songs, and he's technically not on the ballot, but you could, I guess, write him in. I guess we'll see if that's a possibility, and it's tempting. Josephus is I'm
enjoying his little videos. They're funny.
Yeah, he knows the real issues, that's for sure, and it's VHS or beta. Will, you have any thoughts on Josephus and VHS or beta?
I just keep looking on Spotify every week just to see like if the mixtape is coming out. I need these songs for my commute, for my workouts, for
Apple iTunes.
Yeah, where are these gonna drop? Are these on Bandcamp or something? Let me know.
Napster, I think you can get it on Napster.
Napster.
Yeah.
Napster. Maybe download it off of LimeWire.
Oh yeah. Okay. I haven't checked those platforms. I need to get on there.
But God, I'm sure you don't have enough on your plate right now. So, but when you get a second, just share it on the interwebs. Doc, Mass Fan, anything to add before we move on to the next thing?
Again, I think Josephus is like, to me, he is what we see is only ever the surface with him. He is, in my mind, like the brilliant, most complex character or personality that we have in the NWA. And there are illusions there that you only ever grasp just threads of. He's so good. And so I just love seeing him because I'm always like, and there maybe there's nothing there, but every time I'm listening, it's like National Treasure. I'm listening for clues and for little hints and innuendos at things and all that. But I've told you guys before, I'm trying to collect the collected sayings and teachings of Josephus to put out kind of like a daily devotional type thing on Twitter and all that. But I love Josephus, man. My dream is if we can't get him on here, at least for the Bearded Trio to sit with him off camera and just talk philosophy, film, have a scotch or a bourbon or something like that, and just talk, man. I'm huge about. There's this.
That'd
question.
Be a good listen.
Yeah, absolutely, man. One of the things that town, and you know this, I think we all know this, town council members are going to get to have a discussion on Thursday about who is on that Mount Rushmore for the NWA. And if you're talking about like the rebrand, for me, it's got to be Tim Storm, Nick Aldis, Josephus for sure, and Allison.
Thunder Rosa.
Well, I would say Thunder Rosa, but she wasn't on that initial rebrand. Allison Kay came in wearing the title, and she's one of those ones who I think is like so unappreciated. Not that you don't appreciate her, and I appreciate Thunder Rosa. I do. I think Thunder Rosa is going to be one of the great champions. But Allison Kay being one of those founding fathers of the
of the new era of power.
Yeah, exactly. Thunder Rosa, no shade on her. She is.
They're both really
Thunder Rosa in our house, man. Anytime I get to put her over or follow her, support her, I'm going to do it. But Allison Kay is one of those ones that really, she's one of those, Alexander Hamilton, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson type characters when she is a founder. And but Josephus is right there up there with them, and he does a lot of stuff behind the scenes, and he's got such a creative mind that we don't see and always appreciate immediately. But I love those Josephus segments are some of the best stuff out there. I mean, bar none.
Oh yeah, I like them too. I thought they were pretty cool. They're pretty creative.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we got the actual trailer for Stu Bennett's new movie, I Am Vengeance, Retaliation. It's an action film. Theaters aren't open yet, but it's probably, I guess, coming to VOD. And I'm actually kind of excited about it. I'll be honest, I have not seen the original I Am Vengeance, but I'm willing to give it a go. Maybe for my other shows, Psychotronic Film Society, it looks like a nice cult, crazy action movie. This one, though, I don't know if you guys care about this stuff, but I was just impressed that he's like face to face with Vinnie Jones in this, and I love Vinnie Jones. He's If you guys haven't seen movies like Snatch and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, and he was opposite of Stone Cold Steve Austin in that movie, The Condemned.
This movie looks really good. Usually when you hear of a wrestler or somebody like that in a movie, there's like those WWE movies that they kind of put out. They were never really, but this isn't that. This is Stu Bennett in his own thing and his own movie. But I don't know. I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. But I thought that the movie trailer though it did go a little long and gave us really a lot of what the movie is. But then again, that's the goal of a lot of movie trailers in today's time, is they give you a lot of what the movies are in their trailers. So it's like you're almost watching the whole movie there. But
just saying, it might be good for the Stetson household. Give Piper could get into some Stu Bennett murdering people on screen. The next thing up was the Tim Storm history lesson, which is just a precursor of things to come that Tim Storm's going to play a huge part in this episode. But Tim Storm talking about political scandals. The biggest scandal of all, though, despite talking about the Hamilton and the Reynolds affair and Craig in the bathroom stall, is that Tim Storm said multiple times. And that's not something I ever thought people were here, but it's something I didn't know I needed to have happen, and I'm glad that it did. Every time he said wiener, I giggled like an idiot. So there you have it. How'd you guys feel about the history lesson today?
I thought it was great. Saying wiener. It's Tim Storm. It's not off brand, honestly, in my mind. I mean, he is like, your dad that says things like that. So I thought it was funny. What was most surprising, I think, was how much he kind of smiled and giggled when he said it. So like that was a little bit telling about he might be one of the older, more seasoned guys, but he's still got that teenage sense of humor. I think we don't outgrow it.
That segment really had a lot of meat to it.
I agree. Stetson, did you catch Tim Storm's saying wiener at all, or were you just stuck on Marty Bell in a schoolgirl outfit?
Well, I could watch Marty Bell in a schoolgirl. I won't say that. I think the lovely teen
already said it.
But you didn't know what I was going to say. You didn't know what I was. I didn't finish. I was going to say I could watch Marty Bell in a schoolgirl outfit, go and practice social distancing, and send positive messages to people all day. That's all I was going to say, guys. Anyway, but I did like the Tim Storm. The Tim Storm segment was great. We're in our house. If you guys watch Piper's Notes, we love theater. And so Piper's just tripping out about the Hamilton references, man, and it was cool. And they didn't give any spoilers about what happens and all that. But just so all of our viewers know, if you don't know, I was surprised to find out that Mae Valentine was not aware of this in our citizen and council member Patreon discussion afterwards. But Hamilton, the musical, will be playing on Disney Plus on July the 3rd. First time it's ever been televised, so I can't wait for that. But anyway, I liked it, just if for nothing else but the Hamilton reference. It was pretty cool.
You know what I think could make those the Tim Storm segments just a little better? Not that they're not bad, because I like them too. If he was actually sitting at like his school desk at work while being recorded, and you get to see all that stuff, it'd really give that feel to like a classroom-esque feel, But I know they're out of school.
I was about to say maybe he's just not able to go to school.
Yeah. No, that's what I figured. Yeah.
But I agree. I think that would add a lot to it.
Getting cold there.
Yeah, I was actually. So
half cold, half not.
Yeah, the guns out, Gary. The barrels is getting cold, son. We gotta.
It's caving into the YouTube criticism there, man. You're giving in to. You're letting the bullies win, man.
Fine. Now I've got to prove I'm not letting the bullies win. So I'm gonna keep it off. You guys want the gun show?
Now you're just giving in to us.
Oh, Gary, make your own decisions, man.
You guys call down the thunder, you're gonna get the lightning. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what that means.
You got your left army and your right army.
Yeah, that's it. Oh man, a lot of talk about Thunder Rosa in there. I think that's because Brian Rosa dropped into the chat. So much love to Brian Rosa and Thunder Rosa. Very admirable parts of the NWA fan, and that's hashtag NWA fan. I also wanted to say, as we're rounding out into an hour into the show, that if you haven't already and you're watching this, please hit subscribe. Make sure you do that for us because it helps us get in front of more people. Just hit the like button. Just makes the video popular. And we just appreciate everybody who shows up in the chat. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for doing that. And the only other thing I had, what was I going to say? I don't remember. I had some reason that I thought of this. Oh, join the Patreon. It's patreon.com/Carnyland. You guys can sign up for that. I don't think you can be a council member anymore, but you can at least be a citizen, and you get cool stuff like what Rob was just talking about, where he was talking about how we were addressed by Royce Isaacs and May Valentine today. We got to sit down with a Q&A. You got to ask questions in the chat or prior to the meeting, and they literally went through all of them. Like Ghana moderated. It was really, really cool. So make sure you guys do that.
Being a citizen is only like $5 a month or something like that.
Yeah, it's something just like that, and it's well worth it. And you're getting to support the National Wrestling Alliance in a time where they can't put on shows like they'd like to, but the talent is working very hard right now, as you can see from Carnyland, to earn your support. And so you want to do that. I guess while I'm at it, I'll say too, the True Love Weight shirt from Royce Isaacs and May Valentine is split half and half on the pre-orders between the NWA and Royce and May. So you're actually directly supporting these folks who can't get out. Yeah, so I guess it's split 3 ways. So you're directly supporting them and helping them get by in this time where they can't actually go into work and stuff. So just make sure you do that. If you're feeling froggy and able to, jump on it. All right. So let's move on to the next thing. We're getting a lot of feedback about not talking about WWE. Listen, we'll talk about WWE if it comes up, but that's it. Legata just mentioned, do you want me to call Esther and get you a knitted sweater? I 100% would wear that a lot.
In the heat of the summer?
Esther,
with no sleeves.
Esther Addington.
Sleeveless.
No sleeves.
I would cut the sleeves off.
But that would defeat the point of the sweater if you cut the sleeves off, right?
Not if I'm cold just right here. You know?
Like those weird vests that I see some people wear that have like no sleeves, but it's like a jacket vest. I never got those, I guess.
Yeah, you're just cold at one spot. My cold heart would be warmed in more ways than one by Miss Esther Addington. It'd be lovely. So the next thing up for us to talk about is Aaron Stevens. He cut a promo. Don't forget that he is also running for mayor of Carnyland. And he promised 5 things. 5 things. Number one of those 5 things is complete riffraff and vagabond removal. He will make sure that happens. And you know who you are out there. You know which one of you will be out of Carnyland. And number 2, quality and enlightening entertainment. No idea what that means, except probably what was it? Tropical Pirates, or
Tropical Pirates, right?
Tropic Thunder.
Something like that.
No, it's not Tropic Thunder.
I know. I know.
Thunder in Paradise is, I believe, what you were looking for there, starring Hulk Hogan. And but number 3 would be he will always look good in a suit. So nice of him. I'm sure Aldous can even stand behind that.
As long as he wears that suit and not the skin-colored trunks again.
Well, just a suit top, I imagine, and then the skin-colored trunks underneath.
The skin-colored suit.
Skin-colored suit. Number 4, I'm sure you'll like this, Mass fan. Number 4 is he guarantees a mandatory karate program. So Stinson, you're already well trained. I imagine that you'll be able to just like move your education career right into Carnyland.
Yeah. By the way, I've been meaning to ask, how far along are you guys in your training?
I'm still Piper has put on her 4th degree. I think we talked about that the night she got it. She broke the Mongrovian oak. I've not been able to do it yet, man. I nearly broke my hand trying to do it, so I'm still sitting at 3rd. But Petra,
I'm at a strong 7.
Yeah, you're at 7. Petra's got a white belt with a yellow stripe, and we meant to test for the yellow belt a couple of about a month ago, but just time and all that, we've not been able to do. But she's got her forms down. She's mastered the 3 forms of the Mongrovian white belt. But we also study. My wife is a 2nd degree black belt in Taekwondo, and so she does. There's some common threads there. So I'm hoping she can give me that extra boost to get me across that Mongrovian oak, so I can get to that 4th degree. That's my goal right now. Hopefully, next time we get to a TV taping, I'll have my 4th degree.
I'm going to be honest with you. I wish you'd all shut up.
Hey, we've been there, man. We've been humble white belts before, Gary. We've been humble white belts. It's okay. You got to start from somewhere.
All right, fair enough. Well, number 5 for Aaron Stevens is that he's going to guarantee to fulfill all of the other 4 promises. So that's honorable number 5.
That's the best promise of all.
Fortson is going after you in the chat. He's saying your back has to be sore from leaning over so much. We got Whiskey Stinson in the house tonight.
I was gonna mention, like, whenever he talks to us, he looks like he's like it's like a mental subconscious, like he's talking down to us, and it like makes me feel like I'm beneath him. Like,
right.
That's what it is.
Well, it's 10 o'clock, guys. It's officially, this is the NWA After Dark. I have to tell you, Fortson, that's not why my back is sore, bro. That's not why my back is sore.
When I was doing some live chat with Question Mark, he was kind of doing the same thing. He was like doing this the whole entire time, and I'm like, "Are you looking at me? What do you?" I didn't ask, but he was kind of like doing what you were doing, but you could see his eyes, kind of like how you see mine. It was like a piercing into my soul.
Yeah. Well, this is stimulating. The next thing up is important to
stimulating.
We're back on the Tim Storm and Weeder talk, I guess. Zicky Dice has a pitch to Thunder Rosa. He's on the phone, and he's trying to get her to become vice mayor, which is not even a thing, but that's going to be his first order of business. Is he will make that policy. There'll be a vice mayor of Carnyland, and it will be Thunder Rosa. Brian Rosa is in the chat, by the way, just in case. Thunder Rosa, her stipulation was, you got to listen to me tell you all the things I think about you, and he did. As he was walking along the beach. Brian Rosa in the chat is saying that Zicky Dice also said if he wins, he would get rid of Santa from the crowd. Santaval. 86 Santaval?
No.
Can you believe that? Can you imagine?
That's nuts. He's like a staple among the fam.
I know. I mean, I like to think that I'm an important part of the crowd, but in no way, shape, or form do I ever think that I am above a masked fan and a Santaval and a Stinson family dressed in Mongrovian attire. Like that's hard to beat. That's the kind of stuff you want in the crowd. I guess I could bring the guns out look or something so that I look good in like a RetroSoft Studios game or something. But I don't know.
Chaps, man. Anyway. Just wear chaps, bro. Wear chaps in the toboggan.
Chaps,
but just
and that's it. Just chaps in the toboggan.
Chaps and your 10 pounds of replica, and that's it.
WWE Front Row does make a good point. If Thunder Rosa is his running mate, that puts a huge target on Mr. Dice. I guess I'll throw to you, Will. What do you think about the idea of Zicky Dice partnering with Thunder Rosa in a mayoral campaign?
It's intriguing, the idea of it. There's some, they cover, between the two of them, they cover a lot of bases in fans and what people like. I just don't, and I'm not just saying this because her husband's in the chat, I just don't see Thunder Rosa as a vice anything. I mean, she should be the mayor, like that seems backwards. Zicky wants to be her vice mayor, maybe, but to me, that's inverted from what it should be.
Right. For what it's worth, Brian Rosa also commented on our last topic and said that he is a 4th degree when it comes to eating fast food. So congratulations on earning your 4th degree belt. I assume that just like is an extra like edge added on to the belt or something. I don't know. If so, then I am very highly ranked. Stinson, what do you think?
Stinson next.
I agree 100% with Will, and again, this has nothing to do with Brian Rosa being in the chat. He knows where I stand with Thunder Rosa. We love her. I think the sky's the limit for her. For my money, she is the best in the world, like at everything she does. So now that my guy Nick Aldis is out and Josephus is not really a formal candidate, I'm putting my money behind Thunder Rosa.
Beautiful. And Matt, fan, do you like the idea of a Zicky Dice Thunder Rosa partnership, or do you think one of those stands?
I would see Thunder Rosa as a mayor, because if Zicky Dice was, I'll keep this PG. It would be a crap show, but I wouldn't expect anything less with Zicky Dicers running it. But so she was going on berating him and saying all these things about him, and I wanted to tie it back to what Stinson was saying earlier. He didn't deny anything that she was, all those names that she was calling him. Going back to what Stinson said earlier, he would just own up to that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's a really good point. I mean, he did actually, for the first time in his career, it seems, show a sense of just that he was being humble. He was accepting of her criticism. So we'll see where that goes. Lots of threads starting to show up in the Carnyland storyline. Props to Mr. Lagana. See if you can use those threads to give me
tie something together.
No, I just want an Esther knitted sweater now. So then here it is. Here's the big moment. So Forson, everybody in the chat, chime in. Let's see what you think now. Let's get to this stuff because it gets serious. Nick Aldis takes the podium, and somebody in his campaign has been working with him, and they're being accused of embezzlement. Nick Aldis says he has wants no part of that, but because of this serious issue, he's choosing to step down. And it turns out it's Danny Deals. We see some video of Danny Deals actually in there too, where Danny Deals is talking on the phone, and he is talking to someone about a famous Texas celloist who I don't know. I Googled it, and there was James Zuil Bailey, was a Grammy Award-winning cellist from Texas, I believe. But I don't know who else we'd be talking about. And I almost wish I hadn't done that much research because you guys are just staring at me. But the fact is that Danny Deals is working into some garbage, and it causes Nick Aldis to step down. Not just Nick Aldis, by the way. It sounds like all of Strictly Business has now exited the mayoral campaign, except that they now endorse Tim Storm for the mayor of Carnyland, and everyone's jaws hit the floor. What is happening right now in Carnyland? Any ideas? I'll throw to you, Mass Fan. What do you got?
I hope it's not anything that, because their history between Tim Storm and Strictly Business. I hope it's not something that like they set him up to fail only to point and laugh at him. That's just them being them. I don't know. When they announced Tim Storm, he got my vote. I love Tim Storm, as everybody does. So, I hope he wins.
But do you back Tim Storm? A Tim Storm that is backed by Strictly Business.
I don't support that. But if it's if there's 4 extra votes in the ballot for him to win from them, hey, you know what? We'll take it where we can get it, right?
Right.
Get Tim Storm to the
Stinson,
top.
you've often been an Aldis apologist. Where do you land on something like this happening? What's going through your mind?
This right here, read my lips, okay? Fortson, wrestling with the MMA, Pike Picasso, the Strictly Resistance faction. This right here should put the nail in the coffin of your delirious delusions, of the insidious, I'm trying to think of all the stratagems that Strictly Business and our Real World's champion have. This shows them to be true statesmen and diplomats. And when things were not on the up and up, when things were not above board, when things were not beyond reproach, what do? They set aside their personal agendas, their personal interests, and place the interests of Carnyland and the entire wrestling world on their shoulders with an endorsement of somebody whose ethics, whose qualities as a champion and an athlete are absolutely beyond reproach. And so I saw this as a mark of the integrity and the true diplomacy and statesmanship of Strictly Business, not Strictly Resistance, Strictly Business, the national treasure, Nick Aldis, to endorse Tim Storm. And so as far as I'm concerned, this right here now consigns the Strictly Resistance faction of the NWA fam to the laughing stock, the laughing bins of the trash bins, as it were, of history.
Oh boy. I'm just watching the chat now.
Gary, I think you're on mute, brother. You said
I guess I'm the host.
Sorry, I don't know what happened there.
Well, you were saying I was going to say, though,
I got muted too. I was like, what?
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know what happened. So yeah, Fortson's in the chat. Obviously, we knew this was coming. It's a ruse, a plot, a stratagem. Is that how you say that word properly?
I've always said it's stratagem, but what do I know?
Stratagem. Yeah, well, I don't know. Yeah.
You know,
like a doctor.
Just to make Tim Storm look bad. They only did it because they got caught. Once again, Stinson is hissing. Weird. I don't know. We were talking about EC3 earlier. Also, Work Shoot Wrestling Podcast is mentioning EC3's music played on after Moose's match on Impact. I hope that's not true. I want him to come to NWA. But aside from that, what's happening here, Will? What is going on in Carnyland?
Well,
why would Strictly Business endorse Tim Storm?
Surprisingly, I don't have a conspiracy theory about this. It seems too obvious for me to have a conspiracy theory about. I don't know. I mean, I can't see a world though where there's a ballot with Tim Storm's name on it that I don't vote for him. That's my struggle takeaway right now. So I mean, you know, unless there's something that comes out that's backhanded about all this, or you know, whatever, I can't see myself not casting that vote for the perfect storm. You know what I mean?
That is the tough part for me too. Is like Tim Storm's obviously like the most honorable, admirable guy in the NWA. He's the ultimate baby face. But he's backed by Strictly Business. So this makes it really weird. These are the people that attacked him. Does Tim Storm know about this? We haven't heard from Tim Storm.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So they said next week it'd be his first public address. So maybe we'll learn more. Maybe there's more to the story. I don't know. There are a lot of questions in my mind about this affiliation. It doesn't seem like something that Tim Storm would be fully on board with. So hopefully he'll give us some kind of explanation as to what's going on, and then we can make a decision after that.
And we can't. I can't sit here and just say that Strictly Business attacked Tim Storm. Okay, they did Tim Storm a favor. All right, Tim Storm was hanging around, and they, in the interest of his career, helped move him along into a place where he could thrive, which might be in the TV title division or someplace outside. They did him a favor. This was not an attack. This was professional development.
Well, they just got Tim Storm out of their way. So
Interesting. Stinson, Fortson's after you again in the chat. I mean, he's just calling you an honest apologist. And this is the very definition of spin. Storm is the definition of honor. All this, not so much. But Front Row does mention, WWE Front Row does mention that Tim Storm, Aldis did call Tim Storm an icon in the latest What's Calls in Aldis. So there is that. But Fortson does point out that your Stinson's mental gymnastics are exhausting. So
I'll take that. I'll take that as a compliment, because gymnastics are a highly refined skill. So.
Well, I guess that's hard to argue. Brian Rosa has a theory that the Russians are already planning on taking this election, so I don't know. Take that as you will. So, Turbo's in the chat. Welcome, Turbo. Thank you for being here. I mean, that wraps it up for as far as Carnyland, the actual show. Now, from here, all bets are off. Whatever you guys want to talk about in the chat, we are here to talk to you guys about any of that stuff. We can talk about NWA, Carnyland, wrestling culture in general. What?
Yeah, I got about till 10:30.
So. Here for the live chat. What's that, Mass fan? I hear you grumbling over there.
Grumbling. I'm here to about 10:30.
Oh no, man! This is the NWA After Dark. We don't end at 10:30.
Well,
we go on.
This
to the
is all night long, baby.
The unmasked wife takes precedent.
That's great.
I like that.
That's all right. Will wishes he could get away from us that early.
I think I got a little lenience on the guest. So, what do they say? Time is money.
That's right. We appreciate you showing up, man. Before you head out, I guess just to get it out there, tell everybody where they can find you and stuff online, like on Twitter and everywhere.
Yeah, if you haven't followed me yet, just check me out. Look up the Masked Fan on Twitter. That's 2 N's. Some other guy who's not even using his Twitter account has the Masked Fan with 1 N. That guy. Yeah, it's got 2 N's. You can look me up on YouTube. The Masked Fan. I did that actually the other day, and some like masked wrestling stuff came up. So if you just put in hashtag free the mask, my account immediate. I'm the only hashtag with that, so that's my stuff immediately just shows up there, and you guys can check it out. I'm more so leaning into doing like mask reviews, mask like wrestlers and things like that. So that's what my content's kind of gearing toward at the moment until I decide to do something else. So.
Perfect. And yeah, guys, definitely check out the Free the Mask series. I really still can't put that over enough, what you did there and just the subject matter you ended up tackling during that process. And again, it's not even going to be a few weeks. We're going to have the Mass Fan episode of NWA Rewind. Mass Fan joins me to discuss, was it episode 5, right? Or is it
episode 5, the debut of the question mark.
Right. I couldn't think of a better person to have on to talk about the debut of the question mark than the Mask Fan for that one. But we get into a little bit of what's behind the mask as far as your videos and everything like that. So, guys, make sure you follow the Masked Fan. We're getting more stuff in the chat about the EC3 shirt on Danny Deals. That's what I'm interested in too. That was interesting, Turbo. I see you talking about it too, and that was a big topic of conversation earlier on too. We're curious about it, but I saw also somebody so was it Wrestling with the MMA said that apparently his music played on Impact as well. So what's up with that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really myself. I've watched a little bit of Impact, but I've just been keeping up a little bit of the North. I like them as a team, but EC3, I don't know. I just thought it was funny that Danny Deals, and I tweeted about it as soon as I saw it. I was like, man, nobody's talking about Danny Deals in the EC3 shirt. You know, maybe it's just a coincidence. Maybe it's just a shirt that he had on. I don't know. I just thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree with you. Any more thoughts on that, gentlemen, over there? Will, Rob?
Guess we'll see, man. I mean, it's tough because, somewhere like Impact or AEW that are currently running shows, you got to think a guy of his experience and exposure would maybe prefer to go to one of those places. But
You can still
I would
get paid.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but I would hold out hope that he would enter into some agreement where he could do some work in NWA. Just knowing, Corgan's fondness of him and the appearance of.
He's got a great look too.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I mean, he would fit in really nicely. Anywhere you put him on the card in NWA. I mean, he's got it. So, and he's definitely, I mean, he fits the bill for a quality NWA talent, the way that he has really sharpened his own character on his own through social media. He's put himself over far more than WWE ever put him over. So, yeah, I mean, he's got the chops, and I'd love to see him in the NWA someday.
Yeah, everything you guys said, and EC3 is just one of the bright lights on the horizon right now. Not even on the horizon; he's been around for a little bit, but I'd love to see him there. I want to take the opportunity before Mass Fan dips out, because I know he won't do this himself, but I want to again plug his content and especially the Free the Mass series. Mass Fan and I became friends. I think the night of the last taping we met and talked. We kept up with each other since then. And I feel like as an educator and as a father that the message he puts out is a very brave message, and it's one that people need to hear today. A lot of people don't realize that the type of anxiety and the deal of the amount of stress that people experience today, especially kids, it's comparable to the amount of anxiety and mental health issues that people dealt with in the 50s and 60s. People that were committed to asylums and stuff like that over this. That's what our kids deal with regularly. And so I applaud the Mass Fan for opening up to the world. That's not a very easy thing to do. And he was out there very boldly. And well,
if it can help somebody at the end of the day, and you don't have to do the whole mask thing like I do, but my message was just, and I had to get it off my chest and get it out of my system. That stuff like that. If you're dealing with depression or anything like that, you just gotta talk to somebody. And I don't mean like shoot a text message or something. You just gotta have a talk or figure out some kind of outlet. Don't ever choose any kids watching this. Don't ever go to drugs or alcohol. That's not the answer. Find a gym, work out. You don't even have to do that. Draw, paint. Just do something that can help take your mind and just find something that's going to help you keep your mind, and that just takes you away from that, even if it's just for a little bit every single day. I did the whole mask, the mask series thing, and that was my way of not bottling anything up and letting it, destroy me from the inside out. And it had started to, without going too much into this, but every time I'd go to a live wrestling show, especially in NWA Power, it's there for 4 or 5 hours, and it's like nothing in the world else to me mattered except what was going on in that ring or there at the Power podium. That's what was taking it away from me. And then when wrestling was, I don't want to sound selfish, but taken from me, and I know it was taken from everybody for a while. Your thoughts run wild, and I no longer had that way of dealing with things like that. So. Yeah.
Right. And during this quarantine time, when they go back and look at the people who really emerge as heroes in terms of content creation, you think of Thunder Rosa, who's done so much, and Camille and all that. And you think of like, hey, it's Will, who took on the NWA as a new passion and has really, you would think sitting here talking to him that he's been here for years. I can't remember a day when I didn't know Will. You know what I mean? And of course, Gary's doing his stuff, but your stuff was so unique and so important, really singularly important. Nothing else. I can't remember anybody else through all that wrestling fans have been through and all the tragedies we've experienced together. I can't imagine or I can't remember anybody putting out the message that you put out in particular. And so I applaud you, man. You're a hero of mine. I love your stuff. We never know what you're going to say. But it's always important.
I will plant this seed before I go. I know I did like a finale, but I listened to an idea that you had that you had said something about some odd weeks back about like, sitting in like a director's chair or something and just kind of just going over it and just kind of talking in depth about it. So I've been trying to think of an episode of some way that I can come up and do that and properly put the right emotions into it and make sure that the right message gets out. So there's something coming. I don't know when. It's still in the works, but I got one final thing to tie the bow and get the knot tied on that. So there's something else coming.
That's really great, man. And Matt's fan, I just want to echo what Rob said. I mean, that's a lot of the reason we wanted to support your stuff and like boost it up and what we call the hashtag NWA fam. We 100% stand behind that. This is a community and we all support each other. And you're a huge part of that with what you're doing. And we're honored that you showed up here tonight to hang out with us and review this episode of Carnyland. It was cool to see you.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, we've enjoyed having you around to talk to and get to know better, and can't wait till we can finally all get out of this quarantine situation and get back down to Atlanta to an NWA power taping and actually physically hang out together. But
for sure.
All right, man. Well, I guess it's a good time if you want to exit. You're welcome to stay for as long as you want to, but we enjoyed having you.
Got my wife on the other side of the camera there, just doing the old,
just like staring you down.
Yeah, well, she's been waiting. So, hey, I think.
Well, we appreciate. Tell her we appreciate her. If she wants to come on the screen, I mean, she's happy to. If she wants to take your place, and then you guys can trade out.
No, I thank you guys for having me on and supporting me and. I like supporting you guys. I listen to, like I said, a lot of your stuff as I'm driving throughout my day and my daily job. Can't really watch any of the video content, but I like to try to put it on, the music or the sound side of things and just listen to it as I drive. So that's how I consume my content is, through you guys and in the car. So
you're not alone, man, and a lot of people got on board with that. And I was trying to keep up with it. And I got caught up in the YouTube thing, but I'm trying to catch back up with the audio side of things and get things posted in a timely manner. So I know, like today, I uploaded like 5 hours of talk from us on the podcast feed that just
without
stuff that hadn't been there yet.
Without me giving anything away, definitely take that suggestion. Into account that I sent you earlier today. Just be a little.
Yeah, I will. I've got it, and I've already got a message, a DM in progress about it. So that's cool. In the works.
Well, cool. Yeah, well, hey, Will, Gary, and Dr. Stinson, it's been a pleasure. You guys have a good night, okay? And I'll keep in touch.
Yes, sir, brother. Take care.
Hasta la muerte después.
Does that mean like goodbye death or something? I don't know what that means.
No, Rob's the translator.
Brian Rose is in the chat. That sounds like something he may be able to help us with, possibly. So one of the big things that came up in the chat, fellas, is Will, did you have a chance to watch any of the Circle Squared stuff yet? Have you looked at it?
I haven't. No, I haven't. That's the one thing I haven't gotten into yet.
Yeah, people are looking for more of that. I see that in the chat, and I'm very interested in that. I think Rob's seen all of it. I've seen all of it. I know that we were there, and there's at least one more match they've got tucked away with, forgive me that I can't remember who the other girl is, but the American Kaiju, Lindsay Snow, is in one of those matches, and she's just incredible. Like, I would love to see her get some more time on the air, and but she's fantastic. So I'm excited to see that match. That actually came up again in a Piper's Notes from last week with Danny Jordan. No, that was the week before last, I guess.
Right
now, but Lindsay Snow being the first person in the burn book that Danny Jordan carries around. Those two have a feud. If you look them up, like those two are always fighting with each other. Like you see it in YouTube, and I don't know if it's like a thing of being a female wrestler in this region or what it is, but they have seemed like they have multiple occasions where they battle it out. And I've seen Lindsay Snow like run Danny Jordan through a wall, and so it's pretty impressive. Rocky Radley, thank you, WWE Front Row. Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think that's who it was.
Right.
And,
Yeah. It's like, the professional wrestling talent world is already a small fraternity and sorority anyway. So, even with our male talent, it seems like their paths are always crossing, and the female sorority is so much smaller. And so virtually everybody knows everybody who's accomplished somewhat. And Lindsay Snow and Danny Jordan have had a notable feud throughout the Southeast and even beyond that. I think Danny's originally from New York, and I think they've wrestled up north and throughout the country. But and there's another match too, because I don't think Lindsay was there the night that I was there. I think she might have been there on a prior taping, or maybe I stepped out for a moment or something. Wasn't there? It seemed like there was a tag team match.
You're right. There was a tag team, and it was. Oh God, I wish I could remember the name. I know who would know, and it would be Maureen. Like she'd be able to tell you if because it was one of her guys that's usually actually always helping her. Big boy. Who was there, and it's him and his buddy, and they were in a tag team, and they were very angry. And
I remember somebody saying, "Why does one team have all the hair, and the other team have none?" Somebody pulled that out. But I've known Lindsay Snow. She's actually done one of the local shows here with the promotion that I'm involved with. She's done that show before, so I would have recognized her, and I don't remember seeing her. So I'm thinking that she might have been at her prior taping, Gary. But I wasn't at, unless that was also the night that we lost Kobe. And I remember stepping out and watching TV for a while outside in the studio, trying to get a grasp on what's going on there. And then I ducked back in. So I may have missed her, but it seems like I don't remember seeing her there that night. So I'm thinking we've got a couple of more matches in Circle Square that we've not been able to see on YouTube yet.
Yeah, that's as you said, that there is definitely two of those matches still out there. And Turbo brought up something in the chat, and I just want to make it clear out there to anybody listening or watching at any time. Besides subscribing to us here, which would be nice if you did, just at least subscribe so that we can build those numbers up. The thing is, we are also available on the podcast feed, like the Mass Fan says. I'm actually the same way. It was a game changer for me to have Carnyland in an audio format. I don't get to sit down and stare at videos all the time, so I understand perfectly that you would like to listen to your content. And we are available on iTunes and Spotify. Anywhere that you get a podcast, you can look up This Is The NWA Podcast, and we are there for you. And so just if you'd rather listen, by all means, we'd love to have you. Brian Rosa says NWA should bring in some CWFH guys. They got some good ones. I agree with that, Brian. We had Marquez on the show last week, and he was, if he was confident in one thing, it was that he thought he was a very good scout, and I couldn't agree more, because some of the folks that we see right now on NWA Power come from Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, and they've got some guys we haven't seen that I hope we see. But one of the standouts for me that I think I brought up with Marquez is Royce Isaacs. Like I love Royce Isaacs, and that guy I think is we've only seen the tip of the iceberg with Royce Isaacs and what he can do in the ring. So I'm excited to see him execute even more. Any thoughts on that, fellas? Will, I know you just jumped into some Championship Wrestling from Hollywood.
Yeah, I did. I watched a couple of episodes last week, going into the weekend, and I loved it, man. I mean, it's right in line with you know, what we love about the NWA, the atmosphere, the vibe, the talent, the just pure good wrestling talent, storylines, characters, and things like that. So I'm looking forward to getting even more into it the more time that I have. But yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. There's a lot of guys on there that definitely struck me as guys that would fit in perfectly in an NWA feud or storyline.
What's that? Oh, there was a tall black guy there, and I can't think of his name. It was like Watts or something like that.
Yep, Watts. He's I mean, one of the episodes I watched, he was the Hollywood Heritage champion, and I mean, dude,
Yeah.
he was legit, man. He impressed me.
Yeah, I remember seeing him and thinking like that guy could easily be somebody. Not that he's not, but you know what I mean. Like he's got he's like 7 feet tall. He looks like or something. I mean, he's a huge dude. But anyway, what else do you guys want to talk about in the chat? We're here for you. We are just hanging out. It's NWA After Dark. You guys are out there. I know you're there. WWE Front Row says he likes Johnny LaQuasto and Joe Galli on commentary. Brian Rosa says Watts used to be in WWE Tough Enough. I did not know that. That's interesting. Logan Creed from Hollywood just signed with MLW is supposedly the word from Cool Man 952. So that's interesting too. So those guys are going somewhere. I personally really dig Heather Monroe, and not just because she's a very pretty lady. I think she's kind of cool. I think Heather Monroe is fun. And I'm surprised we haven't seen her yet. She just seemed like for some reason, she just strikes me like she's ready to do something. And I don't know if that's on her end or what, but you know, she seems like she's kind of fleshed out as a character, you know, like she seems like she's ready to do something.
Yeah. They've been putting her over a lot. There was some interviews and stuff with her on the Championship Wrestling from Hollywood YouTube channel, and then on their social media, she's popped up on my feed a lot. Just NWA fam kind of crossover with Championship Wrestling, people sharing stuff about her. So she's definitely become more visible.
Talking about like cross promotional stuff, Elder Sauer pointed out either yesterday or today that New Japan is back doing stuff and all that, and I don't know what the prospects of some inter-promotional stuff going on there between New Japan and the NWA. I know there is a history there, so I'd be interested to get you guys' take on that.
Well, you go ahead first.
Yeah, I mean, I'd definitely love to see it. It's tough because I don't know that I would put that on the top of the list of the collaborations or crossover I'd want to see, just because, the current landscape. I feel like the Ring of Honor crossover makes a lot of sense. Obviously, the Championship Wrestling crossover that we were just discussing makes a lot of sense, but even MLW and some stuff like that. And I mean, eventually, I mean, whether it's your cup of tea or not, there's a lot of crossover between AEW talent and NWA, and I feel like that would be mutually beneficial, especially with the Cody history with the 10 pounds of gold, that, something could be worked out there. I don't know if it ever will, but to me, that would probably top my list of crossover stuff I'd love to see. Selfishly, because it would, put NWA on a national television stage, cable television. And I think that would be great exposure that there's a lot of people that don't know about the NWA. There's a lot of people that don't know that, the level of quality that, of the pro wrestling that NWA is putting out. And I just think that would be stellar to be on a stage like that.
Right. I know Gary put over Shinsuke Nakamura, I think it was yesterday, maybe in a tweet. And he has always been like, I no shade on AJ Styles. I've been critical of him, but not for any talent reasons or anything like that. Just He's kind of like same reason like Colt Cabana. I like Colt Cabana. He's not untalented. He's a worthy guy, but Shinsuke Nakamura for me is like, why is this guy not in a world title picture? You know, he could come to the NWA and immediately be a legitimate contender for the world's championship immediately. And there are 4 or 5 guys just like it in New Japan. And a lot of folks in the States aren't used to strong style wrestling, you know, like you're going to see over there. But it's, I would love to see it.
Yeah, I put over Cesaro and Nakamura, and even the difference between those two, I think personally, I've never figured out what it was with Nakamura, because I've actually seen some of his matches from like New Japan, and that guy could go like nobody's business. I never saw it in WWE. Like he never seemed to. I don't know if he got hurt along the way or if he was just tired or what the deal was. It never seemed like he quite hit the level I know I saw out of him in New Japan. And I don't know if he was like, I guess where I was going is like, was he just like, all right, I'm ready to wind this good money and I just got to do what I can do and stay on top here? Or if he's just not ever been pushed to the limit, like, because he did have like a feud with Sami Zayn in NXT, and that was really, really cool. But the dude had everything lined up. I mean, with the music, that entrance, like all of that stuff, just his weird antics, like just the way he moves in the ring, period. I mean, it's like unlike anyone else. And so he is some Cesaro on the other side of that. Cesaro, just every match I see with Cesaro looks legit, no matter who he's up against. It seems, and that seems like exactly the definition of what you want out of like an NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. And that's not taken away from Aldis, because I feel the same way about Aldis. I mean, but I just felt like Cesaro's a guy who could just get dropped right into the NWA and be like #1 contender, easy money, and legit possibility.
I think Cesaro's had trouble with his character development, and I think that's a big part of it. Whether that's his fault or WWE's fault, we don't know. But I feel like the in-ring ability was there, and we as like legit pro wrestling fans have known it from the first time we've seen him, wrestle. But that character development, which is, obviously important, but I think it's the importance is overblown a little bit in WWE, and guys that don't make a name for themselves or guys that don't get written into storylines that make them interesting, they just don't get pushed because they don't get over with the fans, with that group of fans, as much as someone like him would get over in the NWA. And so I think that's what it boils down to. And I mean, to me, it's just a classic case of he's just in the wrong spot. And if he could get somewhere where he could have more control over his character, like the NWA, and could put more time and energy into that, he would not only be over with us as a wrestler, but as a character. And then that push would be complete at that point. But I think he's stifled in WWE, and I hate it. And I'd love to see him go thrive somewhere else, anywhere else, to be honest.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Like, I feel like anybody else could use him well. I mean, he's similar to like another guy who's had more success, but I think is injured now, is Samoa Joe. Like a Samoa Joe, like every single time he's in the ring, he like puts on a show. I was so disappointed in the Brock Lesnar match with Samoa Joe, because it just didn't live up to how good that hype was. But then they got it. It was just like they didn't know what to do with Joe. Like, I felt like those guys could have like just killed each other. But anyway, aside from that, I did ask in the chat who would people like to see in the NWA, so we could get some of your thoughts on these guys as we go down the line here. Coolman952 says the Ascension. He would like to see the Ascension show up. He says later on, I know I say this a lot, but the NWA needs a dark, sinister faction. And so that's an interesting thought. How do you guys feel about the Ascension?
Yeah, I could see it. Probably not top of my list, but go ahead, Rob.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
That was all I was going to say.
I was just going to say that Dark Sinister, the NWA, and again, I'm absolutely teachable on this. I am. So this is not a deal. I don't talk to Lagana like Gary does and all this. So I don't know if this is intentional, but it seems to me
we're like best friends. Like we poop together and everything.
He was at the lake with you yesterday.
I was just
happy he was at the lake.
I was just happy that he knew my name when we were in our group chat that day, man. But no, I don't know if it's intentional, but it seems to me that speaking of Dark Sinister factions, I certainly see where that plays in a promotion like the AEW or the WWE. But one of the arguments I've always made is that the NWA is a prize fight focused entity. It is very much trying to appear like a legitimate competitive sport. And it is a legitimate competitive sport. And so being a heel or being a face, being dark or being light is not a preoccupation. Now, certainly some of that comes out, and you see our dialogue with the Fortune, and we give each other a hard time, but we're actually, real world, we're actually pretty good friends, and we both respect all of these guys a lot. But I don't know that a dark faction like, say, a Dark Order or something like that is really quite the fit. You're really pushing the parameters of credulity, even when you get to something like the Question Mark, or a person like him, who I like. I'm a big fan because my kids like it, and I think it's great. But to me, at least the Question Mark character has always been sort of an analog from parts unknown, as it were. The masked, hidden, mysterious tradition is not anything new. It's not anything. We even have fans, like you saw with the Masked fan tonight, that even pull that out in real life. So I don't think that that's much of a stretch, but for me, and Will can comment on this, I don't know that there's certainly a place for it in certain promotions, but I don't feel like the NWA has ever been preoccupied with dark factions per se. Not that won't ever happen, or that if there were ever be a TV deal and you would need to get some viewer interest along those lines, but the way the company is oriented now, built around the big prize fight, being a competitive sport with traditional rules, not a lot of gimmick matches. Our biggest gimmick match really is the 2 out of 3 falls, which is a classic. Titles used to always be defended that way. So I like the Ascension, and I like some of those type gimmicks. I just don't know that it's the right fit for what we do in the NWA. So I don't know. You can speak on that, Will.
I think it's been it's just another thing that's been overblown in current wrestling, and I think that's kind of given it a bad name. I would personally love to see what that would look like in 2020 NWA, because I don't think it would look the same as it has in, with the Dark Order. And, at one time, like, AEW had like 4, horror type, goth factions, and it was kind of overblown, and they since have dialed it back because they took the temperature of the room and were like, okay, we got too much of this going on. But I would be intrigued to see how something like that would be executed in the NWA, because I don't think it would be, Rob, to your point, as like overblown and super unrealistic. I think it would be just more of a darker character, not necessarily like over the top cartoonish goth, with the Dark Order and their minions, and stuff like that. I think it would be a little more tastefully done and in a way that made sense. And like we talk about a lot with the heel and face dynamic not really being there in NWA, I think it would be, a legitimate tough guy or tough girl, like dark presence, but it wouldn't be that sinister, win at all costs, cheat to win, attack people all the time, stuff that we would be used to seeing, to associate with that darker factions that we know in recent memory. So I'd love to see it. I think it's been overdone, and so it's kind of soured all of us a little bit to it.
Right, and that's not to say it couldn't be done. I mean, Coleman 952 points out very well that Kevin Sullivan, especially in that Florida territory with the Purple Haze and with the Fallen Angel and those guys, they did it to perfection. Even as early as this decade, 2010, 2009. My guest on Piper's Notes this last week was the Reverend Dan Wilson. Some of you might not know him. Some of you might during the NWA Anarchy days and that kind of thing. He was quite a presence, and he had this Devil's Rejects faction where he was sort of like a Rob Zombie, sort of a satanic priest type, very much influenced by Kevin Sullivan. The guy is amazing, super engaging, multi-talented, I remember seeing him. He did NWA Chattanooga right here down the road during the modern territories or the effort to try to reestablish that during what we call the wilderness days. And I know J. Cal knows about him as well. So it's not to say it couldn't work and that it's not ever worked before. It just seems like right now with the rebrand, it's not been a preoccupation. The closest that we've gotten to like heels have been, I guess you would say, Strictly Business with the attack on Tim Storm, Zeke Dice to some degree, and then Aaron Stevens. Even he's more sort of clueless, and I don't want to say clueless because he's highly intelligent, but his character is more like non-self-aware than heel. So it's strange. It's not like you're going to see, like you might see in the WWE where people are getting, at one point, people were being crucified, or like Will's pointing out in AEW where you have this dark cult, very much like the Kevin Sullivan thing. It's much more performance sport, mat wrestling, old school oriented around a basic concept of one-on-one or tag team versus tag team, and the biggest stipulation is 2-on-3. So character development is a very big deal. Personality is a very big deal, but they're very human. And to me,
let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you this, Rob, because I'm interested in this with you. And this is not being snarky or anything. I mean, because I know I pick on you sometimes with it, but like, where do you fall with like? I hear what you're saying all there, and I get caught up in that myself. But then you're also a huge fan of like the question mark,
right?
So and there's Monrovia and Monrovia karate and all that stuff. Like, how do you rationalize this?
I think that for me, the question mark is a far easier sell than we might think, because I think in the history of wrestling, the question mark is an analogy for parts unknown. And that's a very common theme. Even, and I was saying it while you stepped away for a second, even among our fan group, you got a guy like the Masked Fan who conceals his identity and is not very apt to reveal things about his personality and his personal life and all that, other than what he revealed about the kinds of things that he deals with, and the mask being a way for him a cover for him to express that. But to me, even though obviously we're dealing with some fantasy there, the Masked Fan or the question mark is an analogy for parts unknown. He's from that mysterious region, and we're just we're learning things about it. We get it in bits and pieces, like a lot of masked personalities. I mean, a lot of us still don't know a lot about Mr. Wrestling #2. And he just passed away, but he's one of the legends, and he was very guarded with who he was and all that. But I think it's one thing to pose a character or to push a character on us like that, and another thing for someone just to emerge, like we were talking about a few weeks ago, someone to emerge with this brutal hatred for somebody that they just want to pursue, and then after the pay-per-view, it's over, and they move on to the next brutal hatred. People just don't work that way. That doesn't seem very realistic to me. It's much more palatable for me to embrace somebody who comes under a mask, under a shroud of mystery, from an unknown land, and they're not, not much is known about them, than for me to believe that these human conflicts are just conjured up just randomly. Does that make sense, Gary?
Yeah, I think so. I guess my thing is sometimes I wonder with that, like where the line gets drawn with, in the modern world that we live in, you're having to suspend disbelief to accept that there is a parts unknown, so that's the interesting part to me, I guess.
Yeah. I think it's not even the suspension of belief when it comes to characters that bothers me, because again, we've always had that in Coleman 952 pointed out earlier with like Kevin Sullivan even with some of like the Japanese wrestlers, like the Great Muta with the poisonous mist. I mean, we know that's not like some gland that they have. We know it's something, we've always known that. But I think what the NWA is different, where they're different, is it's not about minor suspensions of belief. It's about like heelishness and facelessness. You know what I'm saying? Good guys and bad guys. So these lines aren't clear cut in the NWA. It's much more like what we experience in reality. People are mixed bags. They have their ambitions. I know enough about myself and my own failures to know that I think I'm a pretty good dad. I think I'm an okay husband. I don't think I'm perfect. And I think that sometimes I'm downright awful. And that's much more like what we see in the NWA. We get a real glimpse of like human expression and human competition. It's much more like real identifiable human nature than what we might see in some of the other promotions. That, I don't know if that helps.
Well, and I see a lot of what you're saying, Rob, and the way I interpret it is your hangups are not so much in the character themselves as much as how it's executed. So it's when they go and do something that is just like surreal, that would never really happen in real life, right? You can have a dark character, you can have a dark faction that doesn't, I mean, even the question mark, I mean, he's quirky, and he's like, lots of people conceal their identities. We had one on the show tonight, a real person that conceals his identity. Like that's not an unbelievable thing. But what is unbelievable is, some of the stuff we see. Like a big pet peeve of mine is, and no disrespect to the Undertaker, obviously he's a legend, and he's kind of on a different playing field when we talk about all this. But like the lights cutting off and then someone just appearing. Bray Wyatt does it a lot, and we've had other guys. AEW, we saw that even with the Dark Order, and that's the kind of stuff that's hard for me to take, because I'm just like, that doesn't happen. Like, I'm not just sitting in my office one day and the lights cut off and then back on and my boss is standing behind me. Like, that's not like, but I mean, you can take that same mentality and you can take a dark, goth type faction or character and put them in real situations and things. I think about, one of my favorite wrestlers of all time is Vader, Big Van Vader. And I mean, I would consider him he wasn't like, cultish or dark, satanic or anything like that. But man, he was scary. And like, you didn't know a lot about him, and he was just a fighter and he just wanted to rip your head off. And he was a scary dude. Like, that's the way I would see something like that playing out in the NWA. It wouldn't be that they're, just appearing when the lights cut off and back on and pulling people down under the ring and stuff like that. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that's like a little out there for me as well. And I think is that kind of like your outlook on it, Rob?
Yeah, because evil does exist in the world. Evil exists in my heart and in your hearts too, because we're human beings and we all grapple with that futility factor. But what does not exist in the world, not except for Gary or Jenny or Natalia.
Right.
Can't say that about Tanya. No, I'm kidding. Evil exists. Self-interest exists. Cruelty exists. But what does not exist is like we saw with Broken Matt Hardy. And again, I don't hate the AEW, and there are people that enjoy that. But what does not exist in reality is someone appearing in a stadium and dematerializing and randomly appearing, just vanishing in split seconds all throughout the arena. To me, I saw that. I was like, okay, now, come on now. This is no longer a performance sport. This is now cartoon. And, so that's kind of where I'm at. You're not going to see that. And the question mark is never going to attempt to pull that on us. The most they'll do is put together some quirky video that we know is tongue in cheek, that we know is, and I think with Aaron Stevens too, it's like Aaron Stevens is there to sell the hyperbole. We know that it's being oversold because it's Aaron Stevens that's putting it out, and that's what he does. He earned his third degree in a month, a little over a month, he says. So he's constantly exaggerating. And I think the whole Land of Monrovia thing is a huge exaggeration. That's nothing more than an analogy for this mysterious place that we're not going to know much about a guy that's under a mask that we're not ever going to know much about, other than that he's freaking awesome.
I don't know what keeps happening with my mic. I'm so sorry. So I know like James Lawrence is in the chat. He talks about AEW. He's not a fan of AEW because of the goofy stuff. So like the one that immediately comes to mind for like AEW would be like the Dark Order. There was some weird stuff with the Dark Order. Fortson, I don't know that he's still in the chat. If he is, he brought up earlier, like, how did we feel about the ninjas and the Viking Raiders, or what is that what they're still called, the Viking Raiders? And and Private Party, or what's I don't even remember. But like that stuff's kind of weird. Like that stuff goes so far. But it was weird because I wrote it off when it was The Undertaker and AJ Styles. Like I was kind of like, all right, this is goofy, but I'm having fun with it. But then every once in a while, like it goes too far. So I'm curious to what people's like limits are on as far as you're willing to take it. Because for me, the next night at WrestleMania, it was like The Fiend and John Cena, and I was like, too much. I can't do this. Like I'm out. And it's not that I'm opposed to that stuff. I obviously have a freaking movie podcast that talks about weird, corny, campy horror and sci-fi all day long. But for some reason in wrestling, that's not where I wanted it. And it's kind of interesting. I always hated the Undertaker and Kane stuff when they got into the point of where it was like Undertaker had set fire to the house and like tried to burn Kane alive, and all that stuff. I was like, this is too much. And don't even get me started on Katie Vick, but like all of that stuff, I was like, this is outside of where this needs to be.
Well, it's interesting because to me, everything that you just mentioned, like it's entertaining. I mean, I was entertained by the Undertaker AJ Styles Boneyard match. I was entertained by the fever dream of the Fiend and John Cena, and I mean, it was entertaining. It was very creative, and I'm a creative guy. I work in creative marketing and design and stuff like that, so I appreciated it. But to me, that's not pro wrestling, right? So I mean, it scratches the same itch that watching a movie does. Because it's over the top production and it's clearly fiction, right? Whereas when I look at the NWA, to me that's a completely different camp. It's a different. I'm watching something completely different. It's like watching a movie versus watching a football game. That's like the difference for me. Like both of them are entertaining, but one of them I'm way more bought into. And in some ways it's way more entertaining because it's more real. And that's what I would consider, NWA and some of these promotions that don't do the over the top cinematic stuff. And so it's all preference. You can enjoy both, right? And you don't that's the thing. You don't have to hate one to love the other one. Just like if you're a pro wrestling fan, you don't have to hate MMA. You can like both.
Yeah.
You can like boxing. You can like other sports, football, baseball, whatever. Like you can have multiple preferences. But there's always going to be the one thing that you would prefer if you're given a choice. If I'm given a choice between watching a movie or Starrcade 89, I'm going to pick Starrcade 89, like every day, all day, because that's just where I would rather be. But if a movie's on, I'm going to watch it. So I think that's where I sit with it. I see it for what it is, and I can appreciate the performance, the art, creativity of it. But it's not something I go like seek after the way I do NWA or pro wrestling, vintage, old school wrestling stuff that's available out there. It's a completely different thing for me.
Right. And it's a matter of taste. I mean, I'm reading what Work Shoot Wrestling Podcast is saying in the chat about AEW, and there are some things about AEW that I really like, and I have said on this podcast before that I think that the AEW is a cousin of the NWA with common origins. It's a matter of like, hey, the world is plenty big enough for all that, and there's a lot of some of the most valuable talent right now in the world is in AEW, no doubt. Some of the most valuable talents in the WWE, and there's some really bright spots. But for me, it's a matter of taste. Where I'm at, I want to see simulated combat, like James Lawrence is saying, and what WWE Front Row is saying. I want to see competition sport, spectator sport. And to me, the best analogy or the best version of that in pro wrestling is certainly the NWA. And I don't think there's a comparison. I think you see really close relatives with Ring of Honor and Impact for sure. And AEW is in a lot of respects a cousin. WWE, much more suspension of belief there, but that's okay. There's room for that in the world too. We're NWA guys, and so we're gonna put over our product, and that's what we're looking for in pro wrestling.
Yeah, it's just interesting. I always get caught up in then like, all right, well, what's the limit, like as far as where you're willing to make that cut off. And so that's always an interesting question to me. Because you're right. Yeah. Like James Lawrence talking about it should be as real as it can be, but then also the Undertaker. And I would never take away the Undertaker from anybody. There were parts of the Undertaker I didn't dig. I probably dug the Undertaker more in the later parts of his career. Although I don't know, when I was a kid, I dug the Undertaker a lot as the dead man. And so it kind of varies. The Undertaker was, not the Undertaker, the Ultimate Warrior came to mind. The Ultimate Warrior was never like, I don't know what that guy's deal was, but I freaking loved him as a kid. I never bought the Brood were really vampires, but they were a lot of fun. I dug the Brood. And so it's like there's that part of it. It's like question mark, we talked about he's from Monrovia and he knows karate. And if you're willing to turn it off for that, like it's fun. But yeah, and somebody brought it up in the chat. I think it was Coolman952 talking about Billy Corgan. Well, Billy Corgan does it. Billy Corgan's not the guy that's going to shut it down because it's unrealistic. Billy Corgan is part of the invention of Broken Matt Hardy. So, like, he was there at Impact, and he and Legata and Matt Hardy all shot, like, the stuff on the Hardy compound and all of that stuff. Like, that was them. So
it was Gary, but that was a different landscape too, and the personalities. Billy Corgan wasn't the final say and be all in that, and he understood the context. Was I don't think Billy Corgan would see a broken Matt Hardy type thing. I just don't see him do. He could do it. Don't get me wrong. I don't know him. I'm not in his head, but I think the landscape in Impact was so much different than it is in the NWA. Is that what I'm saying? It's like it doesn't fit with our model, and there's a very deliberate and intentional way that they've gone about doing this. And if you listen to like Nick Aldis talk to Chris Van Vliet, is that his name? That I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. He does a fantastic interview with Nick Aldis when he talks about they sat down and talked about what they wanted out of the NWA, and it being much more oriented towards a boxing style or MMA style prize fight. That's what the draw was going to be for this company. So yeah, Billy Corgan is creative. He does. No doubt about it. He's had a hand in all that, but I think the landscape was just, it's not completely axiomatically comparable.
Shout out to Seth Rollins, who's in the chat right now. I can only assume that's the legitimate Seth Rollins.
It's got to be.
He says AEW sucks. We appreciate you for jumping in to let us know that. Seth, we'd love to have your opinion on how these things go. Like as far as what you're willing to buy. Seth is a part of, Seth is a savior, a messiah, if you will, in the WWE right now. So it's an interesting thing. Now, I will say Seth is not going so far as to have anything like magical about his character. He's just playing, he's more of a, hopefully he wouldn't take offense to it, but a cult leader type character. But so that's stuff I could buy. Like when CM Punk played the straight edge savior guy, like that was fun. Like I loved that stuff that these people were just buying into is what he was doing. James Lawrence, you're throwing a lot of stuff in there that we've hit on in other shows too, and you probably have heard these, but like you're talking about nobody would do a body dive off a field goal during a fist fight, and you also said if I DDT you, you'll be concussed. If I do a spinning DDT off the turnbuckle in real life, you'd be severely hospitalized with vertebrae damage. first of all, props to you if you could do a spinning DDT off the turnbuckle in a fight in real life. That would be fantastic. But the interview, if you haven't heard it, with Nick Aldis and Doug Williams, like, goes into that very kind of detail. Those guys are very much by the book in that those kind of movements would injure you. Doug Williams talks about a specific match in which he gets injured at the beginning of the match due to like a pile driver or something, and then he's out and doesn't show back up until the end of the match. It wasn't about how many moves you could do and how fast you could do them. It was about selling the story instead. So that was an interesting aspect. That's always been my thing, by the way, with these things. Like, if you take it to that level, which I think is what I said when we got into the conversation about the AEW Stadium Stampede, it was, how do you reconcile that in one match we're supposed to believe Cody Rhodes and Lance Archer are having a fight of their lives in the middle of the ring, and, like, you know, it's one thing, like, they're devastating each other pretty much between the ropes the entire time, and then you get to like John Moxley and why did I forget his name? Luke Harper, Brody King. Sorry.
Brody King or Brody Lee?
Brody Lee. And so Brody Lee and John Moxley are having this match, and they're just like devastating each other in the middle of the match, and then like going outside and throwing each other through like tables and stuff like that, like killing each other. And it's like, okay, well, this is like elevating it one step further. And you're like, but that's like the limit, right? But then you get to the Stadium Stampede, and it's like all bets are off. Then it's like, I don't know, like anything can happen in that match. Like, there's a bar fight, there's like people diving off the stands and onto the field, there's, you know, chasing people down with a horse, there's like all kinds of stuff in there. And it's like, it's fine if that's what you want it to be, but how can you get people to my thing has always been, how can you get people to fully, and maybe this is me becoming an old fogey, but it's like, how can I buy Cody Rhodes and Lance Archer when you tack that on at the end? And it's like, yeah, well, Cody somehow managed to beat Lance Archer, but he didn't have to have a horse, or, you know, he didn't do a moonsault off the field goal, or, you know, chase him down in a golf cart or something. You know, it's just, it's interesting. I don't know. It's just like, it's like if you mix that stuff up. And I can see why guys like Cornette, and I'm not going to sit here and defend Cornette or justify him in any way. I think he's funny sometimes and stuff like that. But I just mean a guy that spent his whole life trying to make something make sense, and it was his passion. I can empathize with him being frustrated when it becomes what he would think is cartoonish, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, and they're, you know, I'm rooting for AEW. I want them to be a legit competitor for WWE and make everyone better. But they're clearly trying to cast as wide a net as possible. So they're trying to hit every kind of wrestling fan. The problem when you do that is that, like you just mentioned, at some point in your show, you're going to also alienate every kind of wrestling fan. And so if you're there for the flips and dives and the no sells and things like that, and the multiple kickouts and false finishes, you're going to be disappointed with a true blue wrestling match like Cody and Lance Archer. And if you're there for that, you're going to hate the Stadium Stampede, and you're going to hate, you know, these backstage comedy bits and stuff like that. And so, you know, as much as I want to see them excel, I just feel like that's going to be their thorn, is that they're trying to please everyone. And in that effort, they're going to also alienate everyone, and everyone's going to find, you know, if you're looking for the over the top, unbelievable stuff, you're just going to go back to WWE where that's consistently there. You sacrifice in-ring and storyline continuity, but at least you get the overproduced stuff that you're looking for. And then if you want true blue wrestling, you come over to NWA, or you find another promotion that's more in line with what you want. And to me, that sucks for AEW, but I mean, they're still a baby company. They're going to have to carve out their own path, and maybe some of that stuff will get weeded out along the way, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah. And I'm looking in the chat, just trying to include everyone here, just what they're talking about. Work Shoot Wrestling Podcast is talking about NWA's a throwback to TBS 605 Saturday night. And that's not a knock on NWA. And then I don't think anybody would take that. I think pretty much any fan you find of the NWA right now would be like, hell yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's the point. And so that would not be considered a knock. WWE Front Row says, to me, the NWA is the best of modern pro wrestling wrapped in a classic presentation, which is a perfect blend for me. I think that's what works for me too, man. I think that's it's just keeping it in line with what wrestling should be. And then I don't know. I just dig the simplistic feel. I don't even know if it's the fact that it's like a classic view so much as just back to basics approach to professional wrestling that just works for me, instead of all these staged things. And when they do happen, it's every so often, and it's no more ridiculous. Like, why are we stumbling into two people talking in the locker room, pretending like there's not a camera pointed at their freaking face? Like, they're coming out to the podium to address the audience and whoever will listen. Like, they're coming to talk to you. That stuff always drives me nuts. Like, if I'm supposed to believe these people are in a competition for wins and losses, and they're trying to win titles, they want to become the best at their business, and then we also have to accept that, like, they could be having a private conversation next to some like luggage in the back, and like they don't notice the cameraman and the people with the mics and stuff standing around them while they're having a conversation. Like, oh, I hope this guy never finds out that I'm turning on him, and stuff like that. That stuff drives me nuts. Like, I just don't feel like there should be any invisible cameras at any point. And that's WWE got notorious for that after a while.
And let me ask you guys this. This is the kind of stuff that drives me out the wall too. Gary, where did you get married?
I got married in Greer, South Carolina.
Well, where? Like, what venue?
Oh, it was like a dance hall place, like a little.
Okay, so you didn't get married at your work. You didn't go to your office.
No,
because
I definitely did not.
Because apparently in pro wrestling, that's if you meet someone who's also in the wrestling world, you get married at work, and that's just something I'm supposed to think. And then now also with Lana and Rusev, and so you also get divorced at work. If you get married at work, I guess you have to also get divorced at work, and you have to do that in an arena in front of people. I don't realize that's how that worked.
Well, no, not just that, but then you can also just invite your lawyers, and the owner of the company will put everything else on hold so that you can work out your divorce proceedings in the middle of the ring instead of him putting on the show. While we're on that subject, Will, I'm sorry if this is moving along too fast now, but let me just ask you too, because I feel like I've even heard Triple H comment on this before, and it drives me nuts as well, is that every Raw show for, I swear, 10 years started with somebody coming out to the ring and talking a bunch of trash, and then another person's music would hit. They would stand at the top of the ramp and be like, well, blah, 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 blah. Well, why don't we settle this tonight? And then and it would either be like, that's the main event, or they would be like, let's fight right now. And then they would start fighting, but then there would be a huge kerfluffle, and then somebody would come out to help one person, and another person would come out to help them, and then they'd be like, oh, it's all out of control, it's a double count out, just double DQ or whatever. And then the GM would walk out and be like, oh, no, you guys are teaming up and you're fighting each other tonight. And that stuff And it always made me wonder, like, well, what the hell were they gonna do? Like, what was the plan for the show if this hadn't broken out? You know, like, did they have a card planned? Did they have, like, you know, Triple H and The Rock are gonna fight in the main event? And then they had to be like, nope, never mind. Stone Cold came out, and here's Shawn Michaels. So we got to reorganize everything. They never acted like that. They were like, oh, thank God somebody's pissed at another person, because we had nothing in the books. We had nothing going on. and all these people bought tickets. But anyway,
yeah,
just curious.
Those are great points, man. I mean, I thought everything you said, you know, I mean, really, title championship should drive storylines. Implications of championship matches should drive storylines. There shouldn't be just this random thing that suddenly disrupts all of the wrestling world. Like, exactly, what was the show going to be if this weird kerfluffle didn't happen, you know? So it's like, yeah, you're absolutely right, 100%. And that's, again, like, everything you said is exactly what I feel like. Say what you want about the NWA. People have mixed feelings, and again, that's okay. But the NWA does not do that crap, man. If things are going to be hashed out, it's going to be hashed out at a podium in front of the world in the plain light of day for everybody to see. And they're almost always involving the championship title picture. Look at every conflict going on in the women's division right now between Marty Bell, Allison Kay, Camille, Thunder Rosa, and Melina. All of them are interested in the title. All of them. Every single thing has to do with the title. You can't point to a single distraction or a single side story in the women's division that's not title related.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, Will brought that up in like the first recap we did of NWA Power, where, you know, he was talking about being messed with, like, he was always confused as he was watching 10 Pounds of Podcast. He said, like, when all this would, like, defend against or like face Tim Storm that first time, and then Tim Storm moved on and directly, like, he was in a feud with Josephus, and then he's like, wait, now he's in another feud. And then he was like, I think you put it, Will, like, it was like, well, no, that actually makes sense, because a lot of people would be trying to win the world title. It wouldn't be just one guy at a time. Like, a lot of people would be gunning for it. There'd be people that have matches lined up. And then even the fact that, I think when we got into that rewind, you were mentioning how James Storm stood at the podium with the national title, and him and Eli Drake had a discussion about, you know, the national title's important because it means you're the next guy to get the world title. And like, you can get a shot there. It's like you're the number one contender because you have that belt. And so it was still always about the world title. That is a really cool thing. They even do it with the TV title.
And you can have other feuds, like, you know, I mean, you can come out and just using storylines. I mean, Kevin Owens can come out and say, Seth Rollins, I'm pissed at you. Let's fight at WrestleMania. And then after that, I'm going after the title. You know what I mean? Like, you can have grudge matches. But I mean, you hear that in the NWA. You hear those little drops, the little seeds planted in promos and stuff like that, where guys, they have a feud, but all of it is a stepping stone to hopefully a title match. I mean, that's why they're all there, right? I mean, that's the prize. So that's one element of it that just makes sense to me now, but it didn't after years of reprogramming from WWE. That was just kind of a novelty, and people weren't really that focused on it. And it just meant that you got to be the last match. Not anymore, though, because the world title matches in WWE are no longer the main event anymore, because it's got to be a cinematic, hokey match now to end the show, which is insane.
Yeah, that's definitely something that drove me nuts, even hearing on the Backlash thing. I think you actually like got frustrated right when I read off that I think we're going on Sunday night. We read that the championship matches weren't even the final match, and that was just annoying. And Front Row brings up a good point about Ronda and Becky. I mean, that was the second I checked out of WWE. I've tried to check back in a couple of times, mainly just for Mania this year and the Rumble, because the Rumble has traditionally been my favorite pay-per-view of all time. But that Ronda and Becky story had me going. Like that was the one I was looking the most forward to, and they screwed it up. Becky, nobody since like The Rock has been that on fire, I don't think, as like Becky Lynch was for that. And so maybe, I mean, I guess like John Cena or something. But anyway, I don't want to drag that out too much more. But there's a lot of discussion about the casual fan in there. I see Workshoot Wrestling saying NWA is not looking for the casual fan. AEW is not targeting the casual fan. I think the WWE is only targeting the casual fan. I think that market's gone. And then so like I think the NWA's main target is the people that disappeared. That's always been kind of
I just struggle from a business and marketing perspective. I struggle with the idea of targeting a casual fan of anything. I mean, don't you want loyal, committed, 100% bought in fans of your product? And you know, they might not be consciously targeting casual fans, but that's the bulk of what they're getting. And, you know, I mean, maybe they're okay with that, you know, and maybe that's why I don't do marketing for the WWE. But I mean, if that's what they're going for, I guess they've achieved success. But I just don't see why you wouldn't, if you love something and you're passionate about your product, why you would not want a loyal, committed, you know, fan base.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a book by Kevin Kelly. He used to be like an editor at Wired magazine, and he has a book called 1,000 True Fans, and it's just essentially about like really maintaining and growing an audience to get like 1,000 like true fans. I mean, that's the short version of this, the summary, the Gary Notes version, but it's about like you get 1,000 legit fans of what you're doing, passionate about what you're doing, then you can run on that. Like that will be everything you'll ever need, and it will just expand and grow from there. But that's like the goal, like get at least 1,000. So you made me think of that just with like, yeah, you don't want the casual fans. You're trying to go for like these people that the freaking NWA is doing it with, like people like us, the people that are in this chat right now. They want like the people that are going to be like, I believe in this thing and I am passionate about this thing working, and I'm going to buy the merch, and I'm going to join the Patreon, and I'm going to support this thing no matter what, because this is what I want wrestling to be. It's a slow process. It's a slow build, but that's what they're going for. It's not, you know, some random family out in the middle of nowhere in Arkansas that, you know, may or may not ever buy a ticket to a show. It's like these people that are going to come fly into Atlanta or drive like 3 hours to get there and buy a ticket to NWA Power.
A very intelligent fan base too. And not that there's, again, I'm not throwing shade on anybody. There's a place, I mean, pro wrestling gets a bad rap for being this entertainment outlet for people that are, you know, poor white trash, whatever. And I'm like, well, whatever, man, poor white, whatever you mean by that, those people need entertainment as well. And they're still human beings. But it just strikes me that the NWA fan base, the people that we engage at the tapings, are very informed people. They see the value of the performance, of the story, of the mythology, of the philosophy, of the cinematic presentation, of the spectacle. They see the value of all that, but they're drawn by the traditional human stories that permeate NWA, like they've done every great epic in human history, you know? So it's.
All right. So what else do you guys want to talk about? Anything else before we start wrapping up for the night? We're getting close to midnight, and Will's going to turn into a pumpkin, or his wife's going to kick him out of the house, one or the other. So we got to start rounding things out. WWE Front Row Bitches, they interviewed Zicky Dice last week. So first of all, if you don't already, the Nation show, the Busted Open Radio, the Nation show, those guys are really, really cool. had a chance to be on that show as well. They're doing good stuff over there. They have a cool Busted Open Nation Discord. Dave LaGreca, Bully Ray, Mark Henry. Who am I leaving out? Tommy Dreamer. All those guys have that Busted Open Radio on Sirius XM. This is like the fan base for them. It's a blast, and they have some cool people on, and they have some cool wrestling conversations. So if you haven't already, give those folks a follow. Just look up WWE Front Row. He won't give you his real name. Just WWE Front Row. I guess because he's in the front row all the time. Maybe you can tell me that. I don't know if I've ever asked him that question. Hey, Coolman 952 says, do you think the NWA will ever have a ladder match or a cage match? Any of that stuff?
I think they'll have a cage match. Cage match is deep within the NWA tradition. A ladder match, I'm trying to see what was said. I don't want to. A ladder match to me just seems too gimmicky. Remember that a cage serves a particular purpose. A cage is designed to contain a clean match, and ladder matches, gimmicks, those kinds of things. I think obscure the one-on-one combat for the title. There are too many variables that are at play. You're not going to see triple threat matches or fatal four ways or Hell in the Cell. But a cage match, yes, you can see a cage match. You have seen cage matches. I mean, there have been titles decided, legitimate title matches. You think Ronnie Garvin Flair, Harley Race Flair. You think Hogan and Flair, even after the NWA and WCW split. So the cage is, you see Tommy Rich and Buzz Sawyer, the last Battle of Atlanta. That is not, that's about as gimmicky as you're going to get, but that's not really a gimmick. That is meant to contain and eliminate outside influences, and it's really designed to really make it as clean a match as can be. Of course, they use the cage as a weapon, and that's fine. But a ladder match, I don't see that in the forecast. Not to say that it wouldn't happen. Again, I'm teachable on this, and who knows what the landscape will look like a year from now or 2 years. But it just would strike me as very unlike what we're selling, with the NWA.
Well, I do remember last time that I was in a bar fight with a guy, we decided we were going to take it outside, and he set up a ladder, and he was like, first one up wins the fight. So that is kind of realistic, a ladder match.
Makes sense. Yeah. Well, generally when you're trying to finish a fight outside of the bar on a Saturday night, you definitely want to do it with a swanton off the ladder to a table. That would be the way to.
And I was like, where's this? I was like, was there a briefcase? There was a briefcase up there for some reason. Like, I don't know where the bar, and I had to get it.
Why the hell is there a briefcase?
I don't know, but it's realistic, man. That's how fights go.
The bottom line is this: the NWA is a spectator sport oriented around prize fights for titles, and titles should be determined in matches by gentlemen's rules, which are you face a competitor between the ropes. These are the rules, and you have to pin them 2 or 3 counts, sometimes 2 out of 3 times in a row. And I don't see a ladder or any other gimmick satisfying that basic requirement for what the sport is, other than a cage. A cage does not violate that. But anything else to me is not wrestling in the way that I understand it. I'm not going to say it's not pro wrestling because, obviously the WWE and AEW have been doing things like that for a long time, or WWE has at least. And there's an audience for it, and but for as a spectator sport, you watch MMA, there's a cage. They got a cage, but you're not going to find a ladder or a coffin or whatever, flaming ring or a doggone whatever, it's
I do want to take a second to acknowledge something WWE Front Row said that is counter. I think I don't know if he's trying to counter what I'm saying, but I think it kind of counters something that I'm saying, where he talks about that he thinks that WWE is also not marketing to casual fans. Maybe they're just big enough to get all the casual fans, but that he mentions, that they're targeting hardcore fans as well. He's been to WrestleMania. That is not for the economically concerned family by any means.
That's a fair point.
Yeah. All right. What else do we got here? Go ahead, Rob. I'm sorry.
They cast a big net. I mean, they're the biggest guys out there. So you're gonna have some very devoted WWE fans, like guys like Wrestling Days. Very devoted. They watch everything, and they've been devoted for years. And they're marketing a lot to kids. But I guess for me, like the WWE is always, and this is certainly not an insult on somebody like Wrestling Days or anybody like that, but generally speaking, the WWE product is something is designed for a more limited attention span. I don't know if that makes sense to follow a lengthy match and a well-developed and crafted human storyline than something for a cheap thrill, And there's nothing wrong with cheap thrills. I mean, to me, it's like, I think Nick Aldis was saying this in one of the in the Doug Williams What's Causing All This. He said, sometimes everything can't be Gone with the Wind. Sometimes you need cars on fire and gunfights. Sometimes you need that. So
yeah. Speaking of Nick Aldis, we'll give a shout out to Give Me a Whole Yeah podcast. You said the chat saying we just interviewed Nick Aldis. Awesome dude. He is really behind NWA's future and is super invested to create an alternative show to the other companies out there. 100%. You watch our stuff or listen, you'll find that we are huge fans of what Nick Aldis brings to the table, and he is the statesman of the NWA. Like he is. He's the man, and so congrats for getting him for an interview. Definitely want to check that out and see what you guys talked about. A lot of consensus for you, Rob, that the cage match would be the thing for the NWA. Shout out to Work Shoot Wrestling Podcast. We interviewed David Starr, Big Vito, and somebody named Gary Horn recently. Yeah, that was me. I was there. Right before David Starr, if I'm not mistaken. So, celebrity. Let's see. What else? Oh, I messed up WWE Front Row. He is saying, no, I'm saying they only market to casual fans. I'm missing your point here, apparently. Like, I don't know. I'm sorry that I screwed it up. They feel like they have the hardcore fans in their pocket already. People who know Vince have said as much. Okay, all right, that makes sense. So they know they've got the hardcore, so they don't worry about them. So they do concern themselves with just marketing to the casual fan. That makes perfect sense. James Lawrence talking about Nick really believes in the product. Give Me a Whole Yeah podcast says, thanks, man. He goes into not accepting pay for a while. A fun interview. That man's getting paid by somebody. You can't buy suits like that if you ain't getting paid. All right. A Work Shoot Wrestling podcast does ask this, and this is a good way to kind of round out some conversation too. And if you guys have anything else, throw it in the chat. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share and tell people about this show. And come hang out with us so we can have more fun discussions like this. You guys keep us going. This, especially the latter part, it's all about the conversation in the chat. Work Shoot Wrestling Podcast asked, how many great matches have there actually been, though? Match quality, not storytelling, like actual great match quality in the NWA. And I'm sure that he means, or they mean, in the modern iteration of the NWA. Rob, do you want to tackle that first? Or, I mean, I have some thoughts.
I would say the entire Tim Storm Aldis series, the entire Cody Aldis series. I would say that Thunder Rosa, Allison Kay, Nick Aldis, Ricky Morton, the Ricky Morton and James Storm, Eli Drake match. Practically every match on the 70 show, the 70 anniversary show was amazing. The Crockett Cup, there are some classic matches. You've got to go back for the last 2 years and really delve into 10 pounds of gold and watch some of the gems that are sitting there on Power that's on YouTube. But you say the same thing going back to it. A classic match is just that. A classic match distinguishes itself. So you go back into the 80s, and there are matches that have a great a great amount of nostalgic appeal for us, like the Nikita Magnum Best of 7. I wouldn't really consider any of those matches a classic match. I would consider like Magnum totally a classic match. But to me, that Nikita Magnum series was so great. It's not just classic matches; it is classic storylines. But the NWA has no shortage of classic matches. The NWA 70 Cody Rhodes Nick Aldis match was amazing. It was one that it could have been written by Jeffrey Chaucer in the Canterbury Tales. It was so good. And again, I really enjoyed the Nick Aldis Ricky Morton match. And I don't know that, I don't want to blow this for you. I don't want to, I'm not going to say anything more about it. But if you've not gotten there yet, it is a real treat. So much so that Billy Corgan does something he never does, and he comes out at ringside for that match, and it was really, really quite good.
Cool Man 952 brought up the Nick Aldis. No, I'm sorry. Who was it? Somebody brought up the Ricky Morton match besides yourself, but I just want to take a second to can we just soak in the fact that the doc here just compared a Nick Aldis match to the Canterbury Tales.
I'm not shocked. That doesn't shock.
I just think.
Look,
in terms of morality play, man, it is to me like if you follow Piper's notes, this is the thing that I really believe in. It's my mission, man. And that's to show that wrestling is not cheap thrills. It's not sleazy entertainment. It is high culture. It is the modern day morality play. It's modern day mythology and philosophy and human interaction, and all wrapped up in the guise of competitive performance sports. So James Lawrence points out Aldis versus Flip Gordon. Flip Gordon, the flat earther himself, who's the perennial underdog, they had an amazing match. Is it a classic? Some people might think it is, but it's a doggone good match. So
it depends. It all depends on what you would call a great wrestling match, because I would answer that question by saying I honestly can't think of a bad one, right? If you're just going to say good and bad, if the question is how many good matches have they actually had, well, pretty much all of them. But when you talk about Nick Aldis versus Marty Scurll at Crockett Cup 2019, I had chills, man. I haven't had that since I watched VHS.
I'm glad you brought that one up,
because that was a match of matches. Like, that was the equivalent of what we grew up on. The feeling that you got, and I said this to you guys, and I think I probably said it on the show before, but it was like when I used to go to Blockbuster and rent, WrestleMania, whatever, and watch that main event, and it was just, it was unbelievable from bell to bell. And the story was there, the skill was there, everything made sense, and I was like, man, I've missed this. So to me, like, it's all good. And that's not trying to be politically correct or trying to be an NWA show. I mean, I can think of several matches that didn't really do it for me. Colt Cabana matches stand out in my mind as ones that I could take or leave, right? But they were part of the show. But I mean, to answer that question, man, go back and watch all the ones Rob mentioned. Watch definitely the top of my list, Nick Aldis, Marty Scurll, Crockett Cup 2019. It's free on YouTube, on the NWA's YouTube channel. Go watch it. If it doesn't give you chills and it doesn't give you that same feeling, then it's probably may not be the promotion.
You have no soul.
Right. We
no,
also
I'm not going to say that. I'll just say it may not be the promotion for you to hitch your wagon to,
right.
Because that defines what the NWA is about. That feeling, that match, that story, really defines the kind of fan that the NWA is going after.
Well, because the thing is, like, the trick is with a great match, you're talking about good and bad, and like Rob's talking about his definition of that thing. You got to decide what it is that you base a good or bad match on, because like a lot of people are going to say like matches in AEW, like a lot of the matches on the last pay-per-view at Double or Nothing were like great matches, but a lot of people are going to tell you those are garbage matches. And I'm not saying they're garbage. I fell somewhere along the way, depending on which match you're talking about. But all of that is subjective. And a lot of times what goes into a good match for me is still that storyline. And I know that the question was trying to not add in storytelling, but I have a hard time separating that, because a lot of times that how much I'm invested into that fight is part of what makes that match really, really good. But man, I'm glad Will brought up Marty Scurll and Nick Aldis at Crockett Cup 2019, because that was the best match on the best show I saw that year. Yeah. And I was there front row, and I don't even know, I'd tell you all day that it was not just because I was there. It was just because that's what I believed. But I mean, maybe I can't be objective to it, but dude, I don't know.
There's no such thing as brute fact and objectivity. It's all subjective, but you're right, 100% right. And you think of like what you're saying about the storyline. Watch MMA, watch boxing prize fights. Every time you buy one of those pay-per-views, they spend most of the show telling the story. They're trying to bring you into the drama. You watch an MMA show, they'll spend 45 minutes to an hour showing how, what the personal stories are between the competitors, how their paths cross. Same thing with boxing. So you're right, man. There is no divorcing the storyline from the match. One of the things that was lacking from the James Storm Nick Aldis match from Into the Fire, which could have been a great match, and it was a great match, don't get me wrong, but it lacked the gravity of a Marty Scurll and a Tim Storm. You know what I'm saying? That it was cool that they did that, but they've got a history too, but it wasn't really being promulgated at that point. One of the things that I want to point out, and we forget because Josephus has not really played a prominent story since Power began. He's sort of, ebbed and flowed and been in and out, and I know people didn't like the empty arena match, but the feud between Josephus and Tim Storm, or Josephus and Crimson, those were pretty freaking epic, man. I mean, those were some great matches and great stories.
Well, and I think WWE Front Row, he's saying he sat ringside at Crockett Cup. He's never been as invested as he was as that match in Aldis versus Scurll. But I think he's the one who also brought up, Thunder Rosa versus Allison Kay. Stole the pay-per-view Hard Times. Like those two, that was the ultimate match. So props to even the women's matches. So they're there. Like, I mean, if I'm just reading through the matches, Cool Man 952, James Storm versus Nick Aldis. Front row, Thunder Rosa versus Allison Kay. James Lawrence, Aldis versus Storm in episode 1 of NWA Power.
That's
Cool Man
a
952.
That's a class.
Yeah. Cool Man 952, Aldis versus Ricky Starks. Front row, Aldis versus Marty. Tim Storm versus Josephus, 10 pounds of gold. Nick Aldis versus Flip. Aldis versus Flip. There's another one for that one. Aldis versus James Storm and Into the Fire. Anytime Matt Cross is in an NWA ring, it's magic. Hey, man, I'll back you up on that. I love Matt Cross, and I love his passion for the business. So they're there. The matches are there. I'm glad that you started down that path, because where I was going to go is that Inside the NWA episode where Billy Corgan and David Legata are talking to Joe Galley, they actually talk a little bit about match quality, that was not their first concern. Like as far as 5-star, quote unquote 5-star matches, that was not their initial idea. It was about creating people that you believed in, having people on a platform that you bought into what they were doing, and giving those people a chance, whether they be older people trying to get a second chance or newer people trying to get a first chance or whatever the case. People that you believed in, that they were there in the match, you were convinced that they would matter, and that was their first concern. And I think specifically Corgan says in that obviously match quality comes along in that eventually, but first you got to care. And so, I think they're concerned with it. So I get what you're saying. They're not seeking out all of the top tier folks that you could sign. There's no, I don't know, no Kenny Omegas, no what's that dude over in New Japan? I can't think. Not Okada, but there's a bunch. Anyway, the point is that they're concerned about the characters right now because that's what they can do. There's a lot of people looking for opportunity, so that makes sense. That's where you'd invest the time. But yeah, character development is the big part of it. Workshoot wrestling, James Lawrence even mentions Josephus versus Tim Storm in the empty arena. I mean, that wasn't like some 5-star classic like New Japan Pro Wrestling match, but you wanted to see those two fight by the time that happened, for sure. Yeah. Ed Ibushi, that was another guy. All right, so we're getting ready to wrap this thing up. Will's got to go take a nappy poo, and we both have to work in the morning. So Rob has to work too, but I mean, we're still sitting here drinking beer and talking to you guys. So if you guys got anything else you want to talk about, you gotta get it in there. No, and for the record, I'm thinking of the, I don't want this to be a race thing, but who's the white guy in New Japan?
Will Ospreay.
Will Ospreay. God dang, that's the guy. That's who I was thinking of. I see people trying to guess it, and so front row, Aaron Stevens versus the Christmas tree. That was classic.
Match of the year.
Ricky Starks versus the broomstick, man.
Oh man, Ricky Starks did put on a match against the broomstick. What's like the second quarantine hit? Yeah, man, this is great conversation. I love hanging out with you guys in the chat, like just shooting the wrestling and just talking about what we like and what we don't like. I think at the end of the day, I'm liking a lot of similar things. I was not thinking of Zack Sabre Shoot Wrestling Podcast, but that guy is awesome. And him, I actually said this to Nick not too long ago, like in a conversation, like on one of these shows, I think that him versus Zack Sabre Jr. would be so awesome. Just two British guys going at it. Like, I think they would have an appreciation for each other, and I don't think they've met. And thank you, Give Me a Hell Yeah podcast for the new sub. We appreciate it. That's really cool of you. We definitely appreciate any subs we get. You guys are awesome. And the other white guy, Zack Sabre Jr. is the other white guy. New Japan's awesome, by the way. I was not as involved into that, but I will say Kojima from there, was that the guy that was in the Crockett Cup? He was in the tag team. I loved that guy. The second time, some great wrestlers. So I'm for all of these guys getting together. I am all for it. And yes, British wrestling has some great talents.
They're the best talent in the world right now.
Actually, I mean, it's arguable that like the Brits have the best wrestlers
in the world
right now.
They do.
Top notch. Like, I mean, between Skrull and Aldis and Zack Sabre Jr. and
Latimer.
Yeah, Kip Sabian is British, right? Yeah.
This is the golden age, and there have been ebbs and flows in with British talent, but this Doug Williams, I know he's semi-retired or retired, but this is the greatest age of British wrestling, and a Brit holds the only championship in the world that matters, the world's heavyweight championship. So that's awesome.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up there. Yeah, I would love to see Jay White versus Aldis, also WWE Front Row. I think they'd have a fun feud. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. We love you guys so much. We appreciate you keeping us going so long on a Tuesday night after Carnyland, and we love where these conversations take us. We never know where it's going to go, and this one was no exception, and just how awesome it could be. If you want to follow us, Will, why don't you tell people where they can follow you online if they'd like to talk to you, because you have a very special show. Hey, it's Will.Daily.
Yes. Hey, it's Will Daily is a daily show on this channel that you're watching this on. So if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. I just cover talking points from wrestling culture, wrestling news from an NWA fan's perspective. And obviously I cover NWA content. There's a lot of content coming out. So if you're having trouble keeping up with it, I try to spotlight the must-watch content of the day. I'm trying out some new, different formats. So check that out. Let me know what you think about it. But you can find me on Twitter at @HeyIt'sWill with 1L. You can find me on TikTok now. I'm experimenting a little bit with that, trying to build a wrestling community over there around some fun wrestling video content. And on TikTok, I'm at Real @HeyIt'sWill because there's a fake one out there. And Instagram, @HeyIt'sWill. Snapchat, don't really use it that much, but yeah, pretty much find me @HeyIt'sWill on all the social platforms, and would love to connect, and tag me in anything or send things my way that you think should be spotlighted on the Daily Show, things that may go under the radar, because I just want to create kind of a hub for everyone to be informed about wrestling culture and the fun stuff to talk about, the talking points for the day. So yeah, appreciate it.
Cool.
Rob, why don't you tell people how they find you, my friend?
Right. I am at rstinson4 on Twitter. I have a couple different shows we do. We do Piper's Notes that comes out on Friday. We do Table Talk, which you can find most of those back episodes on Stinson Vision, but they will be on This Is The NWA podcast channel from here on out. They're not specifically wrestling related; they're more fatherhood related. But it's fun. It's kind of humorous and all that. It's just me really being the best dad I can be at the best point in my life for my youngest daughter. And wrestling does come into play from time to time. I'm not yet. They love when I say this stuff, but I'm not yet on the Tic Tacs or the Snapbooks. I am on MySpace. You can find me at Tom. I'll friend you if you join. But other than that, man, this is the NWA Pod. Like, share, retweet. Thank you for your support. We love what we do. We're just a bunch of buddies hanging out, talking wrestling, man, enjoying each other's company, and we enjoy your company as well. So thank you.
Yeah, and quick shout out in the chat, if you guys don't already, let's support each other. At WWE Front Row is in there. James Lawrence hosts the 10 Pounds of Gold National Wrestling Alliance fan club group in Facebook, and that thing is growing like nothing else. It is incredible. It's well over 1,000 people in that group, just NWA fans of classic NWA and modern NWA. We love that you show up here, James. Thank you so much for doing that. And we've got no problem directing people to join your group, because that's where I want to try to post from. I think we even shot the live stream out from that group the other day. And Work Shoot Pod was here. That's at Work Shoot Pod. I was on their show. They do some good stuff, some good guys. And also James Lawrence is on Twitter and stuff at NWA Fan James 3. That's 3 eyes, like the EC3 thing. 3 eyes. All right. Anyway, I'm at This Is Gary Horn on all the social medias. The podcast is at The NWA Pod. We're on Spotify, on iTunes, on everywhere you want to find a podcast. And of course, right here on YouTube. And we would be honored if you would just hit that subscribe, because we just tried to grow this thing, man. We want to hang out and talk wrestling with all of you folks. Make sure you do that. And I guess unless you guys have anything else, nothing. All right. Well,
Gravy cake. Hashtag gravy cake.
Hashtag gravy cake. That's what this all is. This is gravy cake. And we'll see you next week. Enjoy that gravy cake.